Ready? Okay. Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the City Commission conference meeting this April 5th, 2022. Welcome, everybody. So why don't we begin? We have our agenda ahead of us, and we can start with the communications to the City Commission. Our first communication is from the Economic Development Advisory Board. They sent two communications to the city. Recommendation from that board to take a positive action to extend the CRA within the statewide sunset provision to 2039. I'm not quite, is there anyone here from the Economic Development Advisory Board? Yes, no, no. So I don't know how they came up with 2039, but Alan, that's the subject of what we discussed this afternoon, this morning with the CRA Advisory Board, correct?
Correct. That's dictated by state and the county.
All right. So it certainly is, something to investigate. I think it would be great if we could continue at least the city's portion, and I doubt the county's going to want to do it, but if we can at least do the city portion.
It is my understanding that the county does have the authority to extend.
Well, they do, but they haven't had the appetite to do so.
Well, let's work on that. I think we're going.
Oh, well,
I think we'll
okay,
get there.
okay. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Wow.
One day soon, we'll
Ooh, listen to that. Okay.
representative over
Campaign promise.
there that looks like a city
Okay.
person.
Good campaign.
Communication
Okay.
number 2, the City Commission direct the Government Affairs and Economic Development Division and Development Services to participate in the Franchise Expo South 2022 being held at the Broward County Convention Center. What's the point of that? Why do we want to get involved in franchise conventions?
Don't know what the context of that is, but I'll look it up and I will let you know.
Okay,
Who communicated it?
the Economic Development Advisory Board. So I'm not quite sure why we would get involved in the Franchise Expo.
Well, I think what they're saying is we be one of the vendors to showcase what we do when they bring the expo here. Is that correct, Steve?
Well, the expo is at the Broward County Convention Center this September. So
Do we ever really even get involved in departments attending expos or shows or where they go? Isn't that just typically done at staff level? Why do we get involved telling people
that's
where
really
to
the
go?
city manager's purview.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think what's the guy named Mike Chin was here?
I forget. Who?
What was the guy's name? That was Chin.
Michael Chen?
That was over the economic.
Michael Chen used to be, yeah.
I think they participated in that.
It's something like that?
Yeah, as a vendor or showcasing what the city does or has to.
But a franchise expo. I mean, we're not selling hamburgers.
Yeah, but we don't want to sell hamburgers, do we?
Yeah, I'll need to look and see just a quick overview of this expo would say that you would attend it if you were looking to franchise in some capacity, like you were to
Right.
look for a franchise.
Maybe they know something
So
we don't.
I need to figure out exactly what the
Okay.
request was for.
All right, the next communication is from the Historic Preservation Board, and they're encouraging the city to take steps necessary to explore the State Division of Historic Resources small matching grant for educational purposes and telling the story of Sailboat Bend Historic District and preserving known records. Trish Logan, I assume we can communicate that message to her. Hey, Trish, do you know about this grant program? So get on the stick.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Commissioners, Tricia Logan, Urban Design and Planning. We have applied for this grant program in the past. In the past, mostly we've been applying for this with architectural resource surveys. And this year we applied for it to prepare a strategic historic preservation plan. The city is eligible to apply for 2 grants under the small matching grant program. And as a certified local government, we don't have to provide matching funds. So even though it's called a small matching grant,
Right.
it's actually not matching anything.
Matching. Okay, good. Well, you're on top of it, so great. Thank you so much.
Yes, we would just need direction in order to apply staff time in order to pursue this type of grant.
Okay, great.
We'll pursue it.
All
No,
right.
I think it's great. Also, I would eventually like to see us broaden all that kind of educational outreach to just even more information in terms of historic preservation and not just limited to telling the story of Sailboat Bend. But I think we could always use a little bit more education citywide about historic preservation. So whatever grants are out there, that'll be great. Thanks.
All right. Is Michael Lucent here? He signed up to speak here, and also Donald Dalrymple. Donald, are you here? Okay, he signed up to speak on the other communications. All right. Moving on to business one, city auditor recruitment. Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, Mayor, Vice Mayor of the Commission, I wanted to bring this forward just to get some direction from you. I know you all had expressed in a prior meeting that you wanted to have a quick discussion as to how we move forward in selecting the next city auditor. What's included in your agenda packet today are the different ways that you could move forward. So I won't regurgitate those. At the different ends of the spectrum would be to hire a search firm to conduct a search, to look to the private sector on an interim basis, or look internally on an interim basis while that search is being conducted. In your agenda packet, there were two different proposals submitted from two different recruitment firms. Our Human Resource Department reached out to 8. There were 2 that were provided at the time that we could publish the agenda. 1 additionally was provided today, which did not make it to agenda publishing. If you look at the 2 that were presented to you in your agenda backup, 2 probably very qualified firms looking purely at what the economics are of a search. There was one that was 50% the price of the other, and for 2 very qualified firms, we've worked with SGR before, which is Strategic Government Resources. They know us and know Florida. We did today. I just wanted for the record also say that we got a proposal from Narlock and Associates, Renee Narlock. Renee is a very seasoned recruiter. We've used her as well, and her price is very similar to the SGR. This Mosaic Public Partners that proposed is twice the cost of any of the other 2. So all things being equal, we typically would not look to recommend a firm that would be twice the cost. Just interested in your discussion today as to how you see that this process moving forward. Again, because it is a charter officer, I have to stay somewhat neutral in making recommendations to you about what you do, because it is your appointment and not necessarily influenced by me. But I certainly am here with our staff to provide resources to you and help along the way as we go forward and select.
Okay. So let's hear from the commission. Do you have any suggestions on what we can recommend to the city manager on how to move forward on this? Vice Mayor, do you have any thoughts on this?
I'd probably like to talk about it a little bit more, maybe go through the 5 different options and maybe some pros and cons. I think we have 2 issues, right? We have the long-term plan and then the short-term plan. So.
That's right. You all at your last meeting appointed an interim auditor until today. And so we need to know what the path is going forward from today. And that, I can pull up this exhibit and we can talk through those different options. And then you're right, Vice Mayor, then there's also the decision of what we do longer term, because we need to continue to operate today until that time in the future in which you make a final decision, and then allow the auditor's office to continue.
All right, well, that's an agenda item tonight, though, so.
It is. There'll be a
we can discuss that
resolution
tonight, yeah.
So maybe we could talk through 1 through 5 on the list of recommendations and kind of see what we want to do. I don't know yet.
I think number 5 we can discuss tonight, and that's since it's an agenda item. 1 through 4 would give the city manager a direction on how we're looking to recruit a new city auditor. So that's assuming we want a search outside the city. That doesn't necessarily mean that people working in the city right now still can't apply for it, but anyone have any thoughts? I personally think that we should just ask the city manager to engage a firm that he feels comfortable with and begin the process sooner than later.
I agree, Mayor. I think, sorry, were you speaking?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I just
Vice
want to understand which one are we talking about, short-term right now or long-term?
Long-term.
Long-term, engage a firm. I think I
Right.
agree with that.
Right. But short-term, well, that's an agenda item tonight, and that's why I thought we'd bring it up tonight.
Okay.
This is just for long-term.
Okay.
All right.
So, Mayor, I just wanted to jump. I agree. I think we're all there of just long-term. I guess it basically, number 1 maybe is kind of, so national search, hire a recruitment firm that specializes in this. And I think internal candidates could be, can apply, external candidates, and kind of move in that direction for the long-term fix. And just one other point on that, Mayor, is I think that we should not outsource the city auditor's office. In other words, I think it's valuable to not hire a auditing firm that then becomes our auditing department.
Well, I agree.
That makes sense.
It's part of our charter anyway that we need to have in-house. And-
Exactly.
And we do have outside auditors anyway to audit the auditor.
Correct.
So, that's fine. But explain to me a little bit about this Mosaic Public Partners and Strategic Government Resources. They said that they can come up with recommendations within 17 weeks and 15 weeks respectively. One charges twice as much as the other. What is this 1 year versus 18 months? What does that
Well,
guarantee?
typically, when you hire a firm like this, they'll give you some type of a guarantee. If you select a candidate,
That candidate will stay
then that
on?
candidate will be here. And if they don't end up staying here, then they will likely do a research at either a reduced or at no cost.
All right, so we had two firms. One wants 50,000, the other one wants 25,000. Do you have any experience with either one of these firms?
25 is more in line with what we would typically hire a recruitment firm at. We have worked with SGR in the past. I've also worked with Narlock and Associates. You don't have that proposal, but that one did come into the building today, and it's in my inbox. I have not worked with Mosaic before. It reads the proposal is a 6-page proposal, reads very well, and I'm sure they would do a great job. Again, if all things are equal, and I know that SGR, Narlock can perform the function, I don't see why we would pay twice as much to have.
Okay, so why don't you just go ahead and
Chris,
work with SGR?
Was there a deadline? I'm wondering why one just came in today. Did you have a deadline on this?
I was pushing to have more than two. I always like there to be at least three when we do some type of a comparison. And the fact that we reached out to 8 and only 2 responded, I thought was weak. So I re-engaged with our HR department and just asked them to make personalized phone calls and say, did you just miss it? Would you really, not interested in submitting a proposal? I've never found it hard to get these types of firms to want to do work. So when we only had a 25% response rate, I thought that was a little low.
Thank you.
Okay,
So hold on. So what does that mean? We're going with the one here?
Yeah, I'm going to look at I'll look at Narlock just to make sure that there's nothing that stands out that I haven't seen yet. But I feel very confident, and I can recommend to you that we've had good success with SGRs, produced good candidates. They're connected in all 50 states. We would have a local point of contact, which I think is important. So there'd be no reason not to select to select the one that came in with the
SGR.
proposal sooner that we could actually publish on the agenda.
Okay, great. Then that sounds great. Mayor, I think it'd be beneficial for us, at least due to the potential length of tonight's meeting, to talk just a little bit about the short-term city auditor solution, just
okay, that makes sense.
if you're all right with
All
that.
right, what are your thoughts?
So I'm just trying to think, Chris, if you could give us the equivalent of, and maybe I'm just, as I'm, considering the options here, what are our options for the immediate interim city auditor? We're all agreeing that we want a long-term search. So in the interim, what are our choices here?
All right, so I think you've got to look at what the minimum charter requirements are in making that decision. So I think that's the first thing you have to do, to make sure that who or what you pick meets the qualifications that's defined in our charter. You really have the opportunity to look either internally to our organization and pick somebody that is currently within the auditor's office. I think there's been some precedent at one point where you could even look to others in different departments in the city. I think at one point the city attorney mentioned that one of his assistant city attorneys served as an assistant city manager at a period of time in the city. So there would be opportunities to potentially look in other departments as well, although we sort of did that, and I'm not sure that there's much there to pick from. I certainly can turn it over to Alan, but we've heard him say before that we can function as a city without a named auditor for a period of time if you wanted to do that. There is an audit work plan, and the staff that's in the current city auditor's office could continue to work on that work plan without any named interim and continue to function well to the extent you wanted to on a as-needed basis for an audit of some specificity. If you wanted to assign that within the city auditor's office, I think you have that purview to do that, or I think you would also then have the opportunity, if you wanted to on a short-term basis until you pick your candidate, bring in somebody from the external audit world to do any of that work that you found appropriate. So I think you've got a lot of latitude, is I guess what I'm saying. I think the first thing to do is to decide, just who the options would be, and if you're comfortable with that, or if you're more comfortable at this point just holding the status quo and not naming an interim, and dealing with external audit as it comes up in the next 15 to 17 weeks.
Okay, and the requirement per the charter for an interim auditor is what, CPA?
Correct.
Okay,
CPA with some experience in, and I'll quote so we're not misquoted here, holds and maintains an active license to practice public accounting, CPA, as may be amended from and shall have sufficient experience in government accounting and auditing practices.
okay,
For the accounting side of the house, obviously.
okay. So obviously, so let's just kind of look at that for a moment. So internally, in the auditor's office, CPAs, I think, so we've got Megan, our current interim. I think Jonathan is another CPA, is that right? In the auditors, is that right, Megan?
I believe so.
Megan can help me out. I'm looking here at this list that was just given to me.
So we have an auditor who's an auditor too, that has a CPA license. As for their management experience, I'm not sure how detailed their management experience is running a internal audit unit. I know they do have background in OIG and different projects, but if you go position-wise, there's auditor 3s, then auditor 2s, and this person's the auditor 2. So they report up the chain of command.
Right, and this is Jonathan Frizzard, I think we're talking
Correct.
about. Right, and what I've heard is he's not interested in this, but, so, okay, so internally we've got Megan as a possibility. Outside the auditor's office, CPAs with experience, Chris, are there folks on that list that?
Well, we went through that yesterday. There's really 3 within the city's employ, and that is our finance director and 2 people on her staff.
Okay, and as you and I were talking about that, it seems like the finance director is not an option due to?
Anything is an option that you all decide you want to do, but we would leave some significant holes in the operations of the organization with some sizable projects that Susan is working on currently.
Okay, so okay. Then, sorry, the second possibility is no named auditor. And tell me what that means, no named interim auditor?
Because that one's just really more of a finesse in the charter and the.
Yeah, because for example, the position was created in 2004, but an auditor wasn't hired actually till 2006. So there's reasonably an amount of time that you could travel under. The city auditor technically is not an executive officer of the city, not required to be at meetings, things like that. So there are some things there's a gap in time that you can have without any detriment to the city. They are presumably on a schedule of audits. They have an annual plan, I believe. So those can continue. And to the extent that you would want to have someone externally, if you don't have somebody internally, at least at the ready, should an audit be required to occur, that you would have somebody in hand, because obviously you want those auditing services. We do have some of those now that we've used. We used one for Rio Vista, for example, CSI, I think, or whatever it is, CIS. CRI, okay, close enough. But we'd have somebody at the ready to do the accounting side of it. The other aspect, obviously, is the internal workings of the office beyond the auditing. So from an HR perspective, time off, vacation time, if somebody needs FMLA leave or needs some kind of leave, you're going to need some kind of internal, which you can do through your HR department. So there's that component of it as well, so that the daily operations of the office from an HR standpoint continues. So you have that option as well.
Okay. So in other words, so you could have, if I'm hearing right, you could have an external firm and someone at the external firm serves as like the interim.
Right. So like with city attorneys, for example, not every city has an internal city attorney. So some cities will actually use a firm to go ahead and they have multiple attorneys within that firm that serve as, the firm serves as city attorney for that particular municipality, but they have certain individuals dedicated to that to go and serve at their meetings and provide advice and so on and so forth. So similarly, you could, again, on a temporary basis, if so needed, you could have somebody ready to do the auditing work that's qualified, and pursue that until you have a permanent replacement.
Okay, and they could partner, the external auditor could partner with HR, Tarlisha, someone to help manage just the internal dynamics and process.
Reasonably so with the running of the office. That typically, I have heard that again on the legal side that occurs. There's some cities that will have an outside attorney with a small staff internally that takes care of the legislative business and getting resolutions ready and so on and so forth, but have the city attorney from another firm. So that does, again, short-term, temporary, but provides auditing services that the city would need that comes up beyond the annual.
Alan, do we have to go through a procurement process if we were to seek outside, an outside auditor?
I'm sorry?
Do we have to go through a procurement process if we were to seek the services of an outside auditor?
No, that would be a professional service.
Right, so how would we pick somebody?
That would be based on qualifications provided to you, or if you.
See, my concern is,
Again, I'm not suggesting that, I'm just saying it's.
Yeah, no, but my concern about doing an outside auditing firm is that there's going to be a gap in time that they're going to first be selected. Secondly, there's going to be a learning curve that's going to take them time to understand what's going on in the city and to be able to delve into the needs of what we're doing. And so I'm just, and by that time, maybe we'll have finished the selection process of finding a new outside auditor. New permanent auditor. So I see where you're going, Ben, but I'm just thinking we might be better off picking somebody that we already have, no learning curve, no gap, and we're not cannibalizing from other departments to try to make up for the need that we have as auditors. So
Yeah, the concern I have, Mayor, is I've dug in, I've been able to talk with various folks, and there's just a lot of concern in the audit department, just in terms of functionality, ability to get work done, communication. So I think we need some additional resources. It's a challenging environment, evidently. So the idea of having Tarlisha help, I think would be beneficial. I think having someone in addition who can, partner with Megan and so forth from the outside, I think would be beneficial, because they're really kind of short-staffed a bit and limited in productivity right now.
the auditing department is short-staffed?
Yeah, they've got some kind
Are you
of
short-staffed?
challenges.
It depends on how you look at that. Currently.
Well, I know we're missing an auditor.
Well, currently, well, yeah, exactly. So we have a couple of shortages, but it's not affecting our productivity at this point. I've been able to streamline a lot of the projects with different initiatives that have been created, as well as templated projects to speed up the completion of projects. We're ready to issue you or to the city management 2 to 3 reports as early as next week, so that we can get city management response and bring those to the commission. Even after John was put on admin leave, we started a project on the 15th and we had you a report by the 30th. So I think it's unfair to say that we can't meet deadlines. We are short a construction auditor right now because she retired, standard practice, she retired. I would like, if interim, the ability to fill that position if possible, since we're looking at a 6-month lag before a permanent. And with as many development projects that we currently have, we need somebody to coordinate those projects. Currently, I've taken on the role of John, myself, and that individual, and been able to complete it in between 40 and 60 hours a week. So I'm happy to continue working between 40 and 60-hour weeks until a permanent decision is made to ensure that you do not receive any less coverage than you have.
Yeah, so I don't think anyone was saying you can't meet deadlines, but as you and I talked about, you have multiple team members who are just not performing to where you want them to perform.
I only have one that's not performing. I have 3 others that are performing way above expectations.
Okay. When we talked, you said there were 2, but okay.
They're
okay.
still meeting
So-
their deadlines, but the situation's a little complicated for
Okay.
that.
All right. Well, you shared that there are a couple that have received recently some very bad evaluations. So I just lift that up, Mayor. I just think there's opportunity for added help needed right now there. So that's where I think you could get someone external to come in, help, support Megan. Megan can apply to the permanent, and I think that could work.
Well, what I was thinking is if we allowed Megan to be the interim auditor with outside help, because someone's got to be in charge. And I hate to have someone coming from the outside doing hiring and firing when they don't know what's going on. And it's going to take them a long time for them to understand the dynamic within a department. And by then, we're going to lose valuable time, and a lot of these development projects are going to be delayed because of the dislocations that are taking place. Does anybody else have any opinions on this?
Yeah, I would like Tarlisha to be involved in the hiring and firing process. I think Megan probably is a little too new maybe to do a lot of hiring and firing right now on her own. I would like, I don't know if that's possible, but I'm just having a sense that that's probably not the best thing to do. To be too disruptive in the office until a new permanent person, like we need a construction auditor. Let's get Tarlisha involved also, and I don't know if you're allowed to do this.
So
Well,
Vice-
Tarlisha could review, but ultimately the charter says that it's up to the auditor to ask. Rather than do that, I would just freeze hiring and firing until you have a permanent person that can set up the office the way they want to. I think you had done that with me when I became interim, just to hold off and not hire and fire.
That's a big decision, and we might hire someone
Agree.
for 30 years, so I just don't want it to be maybe an interim hiring that person right now. But they may need help, so maybe the outside firm coming in and supplementing whatever help they need maybe is the option, so that we can get the temporary outside help, but no permanent decisions are made until we choose the permanent auditor.
May I interject really quick?
Yes.
On the outside help that you're referencing that we need, the construction auditor position was coordinating with the outside contractors. So we'd be, by what you're saying, we'd be bringing in another outside person to coordinate with a different outside person. So I'm not sure that this is part of like the redistributing assignments within the department and potentially reducing our audit plan this year after receiving commissioner input to see which projects are less valuable to the commission, so that if we take those out, we can free up some of the current resources. But currently, I've been coordinating with the outside vendors for both the aquatic center and the police headquarters, and we haven't had any problems or delays. So
Right,
those
so-
are both going okay.
So when you say you are missing a person, if you can get the help you need from hiring on an outside person on the, why we're looking for the full-time auditor, then that's fine. Maybe
Right.
we don't need a firm to come in. So you need to keep figuring out who you need to bring in to
Right.
build the team. So that's fine, but I still don't think we should do any major hiring or firing until the full-time new auditor is picked. So I think Megan can move forward, working with others, bringing in outside auditors to help on whatever projects you need help with. And then maybe the hiring, firing, just we hold off on that. And hopefully we get a new auditor in 6 months.
Okay. Commissioner McKenzie, you have any thoughts?
I'm kind of confused because we got here because we fired somebody.
Right.
Prior to firing somebody, we didn't hear of any rumblings in the office. Now, the person that is fired that ran the office is not here to fact check anything that we're hearing today. We're policymakers, but what we do or can decide is who goes into that seat. So I tend to agree with all of the ideas on the table, but I would strongly recommend that we go out, do a search for a new auditor that can fulfill our needs and move forward. And even the staff that we have currently could still stay on board as we move through the transition. But I'd like to see us be able to go out and see if it's out there. And like you said, Mayor, internally they can apply as well for it. But it's our decision to pick these positions. And I've always thought, and maybe it's just my ignorance, there was just like 3 or 4 people the way that John used to talk. And then I found out there was 7. Then I found out there's a person that retired. I mean, do we do what we do with other departments? I know this is at will, Or do we do exit interviews to find out if that person really had an early retirement, or did that person leave because of the rumblings and the tumblings and the falling down of the office itself? I just don't know enough, because I sit here as a policymaker and not as an operational manager or insider. So we depend strongly on staff to give us these answers. And I have a friend in the audience right now that I renamed Brad, but it's really Brian. And I was wondering if you want to chime in a little bit on what you think, since you sit on our budget advisory board. Can you help me, wrap my head around where we should be going with this? I know that I have the ability to choose as a commissioner these at-will positions, and I just don't want to give away that authority. I think Commissioner Sorensen.
It's just the interim job.
I know, but I want to put, because we've been here before, 1, 2, and I want to make sure that when we do it, we have some ability to pull back, or the ability to move forward with interim, without interim, or one of the, I guess, 6 now left, but really looking for the best talent that's out there, whether it's within or outside.
We agree there, but right now we just want to decide what do we do in the meantime.
I still want to hear what,
Brian, do you have an opinion?
because I see your,
Don't sit there. Wait. Don't sit there and say your opinion. You have to come up here if you want to talk.
don't sit there and do that. I always call him
You didn't
Brad.
plan to talk today. You would have worn your brony suit. I know.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
you can hear.
Commissioner, I'm not really sure
What's your,
what the question was.
what would be your recommendation?
Well, I think the Vice Mayor made a very good point, that I think that from hearing the conversation that was just relayed by the mayor and Commissioner Sorensen, was that you've determined that for long-term that you're looking at an outside search.
Yeah.
So once you've made that determination, if I was sitting in one of your positions, I agree with the Vice Mayor's point that I think that where human resources could be involved, that really any major, and this is not to take away anything from Megan or anyone else in the department, but I would think that we would want to maintain status quo in the department and not be making major personnel decisions. And that, because if I was interviewing for the auditor position, I would want to know that when I came in, that I could evaluate the team and make the decisions, since now I'm going to be the responsible person. So I think that if you have a lot of changes happening up front, then you're going to limit the pool of applicants that are applying for this, because they can't make the decision. I know that John, in the past, had some succession planning in place. I know that, the retirement was anticipated.
Oh, it was. Okay, I didn't know.
Well, that was my understanding, just,
Said it to us.
and I'm
but
not the
I'm saying,
expert.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You're catching me off guard, so I'm just
That's
telling
why I
you
asked.
opinions off the top of my head, and I feel that, I would agree with the Vice Mayor and not making any major changes. I think you can go to the city attorney's point.
Okay.
You could go without naming a interim auditor and have Megan be the leader of that organization, which she currently is, and have them continue the work while you're doing your search. So, and then if something came up and they were not able to execute it, then you have the option of going outside for that specific project. But don't mix up the two. Focus on the new.
Thank you. You helped me a lot. Thank you. Okay, so I concur. It sounds like the both of you are talking about the same thing. Concur with the
with
Vice
what?
Mayor and Commissioner Sorensen. It sounds like they're saying the same thing.
So what are you saying?
So,
Been a ping pong of
right. So,
I guess I'm the ball there.
Vice Mayor, correct. What I was hearing from Brian is him saying, don't name an interim, I think, is what I
But
heard.
then he said Megan would still be in charge, so we probably have to name somebody.
Yeah, but Megan
Yeah.
will still be in charge.
Because naming and in charge are synonymous.
Yeah, I mean, I think we we should have an
If you,
interim
if it
title.
walks
Is
like a
that-
duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck.
Right.
Right,
So I
right.
think maybe, so, Megan continue as interim, be an idea here.
Right.
Megan continue as interim, supported by Tarlisha, with Tarlisha or HR's.
Tarlisha can
Just
work with her.
support with-
If there are any personnel
Yeah,
issues.
vacation, hiring, any
Performance.
No
question.
hiring.
Probably no hiring.
But no,
May I
but just,
ask a question?
but just, hold on. So Tarlisha would be there to help advise around personnel issues, vacation time, so forth, issues that pop up. There wouldn't be any hiring and firing by either Megan or Tarlisha until we had a permanent city auditor.
I like that.
Yes.
Maybe I summed that up okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead, Megan. Yeah.
Well, my only question is if my hands are tied behind my back and I don't have any personnel authority. So when I have a staff member, like I currently do now, who's refusing to respond to emails, will not take assignments, and is exceeding their authorized authority levels, what am I supposed to do? Because you're now telling me I can't do anything.
No,
The
my,
only thing I can do is say, it's okay that you're going to ignore me in totality and I'll do your work for you, because that's what we're currently doing.
yeah, so my
And that's
suggestion.
not fair to me.
Sure. So my suggestion there is partnering with Tarlisha to work to resolution.
And we've had a 10-month resolution that hasn't worked. I'm happy to provide any documentation you need if you need to weigh in on a decision, but I have 10 months worth of documentation showing the problem. And I can't work in a toxic environment where I have no control over the staff to meet deadlines or to take assignments or instructions.
All right,
And
Tarlisha, do you want to say
we're there
something?
now.
Well, I'd like to say something.
Wait, hold on. She.
Good afternoon, Tarlisha Smith, Assistant City Manager and HR Director. Couple concerns. If Megan is going to apply for the job, I'm concerned about personnel decisions that will be made by Megan if she's in an interim capacity or if she's left as lead of the office. HR doesn't mind stepping in, but if she's going to apply for the job, I do not want the appearance or the ability of her impacting, based on a conversation that's happening here now, giving someone the thought process that they may not be able to apply for the job based on what's being represented here before the commission today about an employee's performance. It's a little bit concerning. So if there's anyone else in the office, she just spoke of an employee, not by name, who is not performing in the office. If that employee is in fact interested in applying for the position, we basically have a record now, not by name, but we could probably figure it out, that there's a challenge there. So
They're not
I do
eligible.
have concerns. Let me finish, please.
Is this-
My concern is that if personnel decisions are to be made in the office, if they can rest with human resources just to make sure that there's no exposure for the city or any ability of anyone from the office on staff to taint that process that we have that's coming forward by the outside agency.
Okay, Commissioner Glassman.
Thanks, Mayor. So I've heard some stuff now that has actually influenced me even more than before the meeting began. But I agree with Vice Mayor and what commissioners are saying. I don't think that there should be any hiring or firing or personnel decisions right now. I do think that there needs to be an outside person. In fact, prior to hearing the discussion that I've heard today, I actually believed, based on my conversations with various folks within the department, that we should have an outside person within our city actually in charge of this department. There are obviously challenges. We're hearing them right now. We're hearing the environment. It's not good. And I don't think it just happened in the last 2 weeks since we lost the auditor. This is obviously something that's been going on
Well,
for
how
quite
would
a
an
while.
outside person be able to maintain discipline if they don't have the authority to hire and fire?
Well, no, I don't think we can hire or fire until we have a permanent auditor in place.
So
I
what
think-
happens to discipline within the office?
Well, that's why my actual first recommendation was going to be today, but Chris has told us that that would take away from the department. I thought our finance director, if possible, should actually lead this department until we came up with a more permanent solution in terms of an auditor. Because in speaking to a variety of people within the department, it's clear to me that either way we go on this in terms of an interim, it's just going to cause even more of a challenge within that department. So I think at the very least, someone like Tarlisha has to be involved. So I'm not even inclined to pick an interim auditor at this moment. I'm definitely looking forward to hiring an auditor with the search that the manager will be involved in and HR will be involved in. And we're hearing this right now. There's an environment there that's obviously not working. And I'm just reluctant to make a choice now because I think whatever choice is made in terms of an interim right now, it will probably turn off half the department one way or the other. So I think it's a no-win situation for us. That being what it may, I just still think that we have to be able to have someone in the city involved in this department right now as a caretaker until we actually hire an auditor. But at the very least, no hiring right now, no firing. Just take care of what needs to get taken care of in the work product and dealing with leave and dealing with sick time and vacation time, things like that.
But you haven't answered the question.
What's the question?
The question is, if you have non-performing or low-performing employees with no retribution, how is that policy going to? Why doesn't everyone just stay home?
Well, again, that's.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Want to answer?
Yeah, I'll answer.
With creativity.
Well, I'll try to be creative. Mayor, I think with Tarlisha supporting the department, Tarlisha has 30 years of HR leadership.
Exactly.
An
Does she have the authority then?
Well, Mayor, she would have the authority to make personnel decisions as it relates to vacations, to providing
Right, but we're not talking about
rewards,
vacations. We're talking
penalties.
about someone that doesn't respond to emails and stays home and doesn't do any work. That has nothing to do with vacations or sick time. This has to do with performance, and that could become a cancer within the department if one person's getting away with murder, the other one's going to say, "Well, why don't I just back off because no one's going to fire me?"
I think it speaks to.
So what I was going to suggest is, why don't we have the finance department, like Susan Grant, be the interim auditor at nominally, and still allow there to be a team leader? And can we do that?
No,
No,
you'd
you
have to
can't.
have a certain, if we chose Susan Grant, she would have to completely divorce herself from her role in finance and from the management's office and be the actual
All right,
interim.
not a good idea then.
What about
Mayor,
HR? What about Tarlisha and HR?
Mayor, there are penalties that can be levied against an employee that are short of hiring and firing. Let's just ask Tarlisha, if are there sufficient ways to incentivize or penalize or correct employees short of firing?
With all general employees, we take them through the same disciplinary process. It's a charter office, so it's handled differently, and being that there's no leader at the helm, that creates a challenge. The only reason that we would be willing, could be willing to step in is to make sure that we have continuity of operations. Right now, if there's any disciplinary issues or whatever, they need to be addressed. That's not something I would not do without, the advice of the city attorney's office as it relates to any serious discipline, but that's not something that we would be looking forward to doing. And to me, it sounds like it's a management issue. If the employees don't have someone to report to let them know what the standards are and what they need to do in order, that's citywide. We exchange the hours for dollars, come to work, go home. So if we make sure that that is done, it should not be a challenge. So if that is the issue, we can have a meeting to recalibrate that. But as far as permanent decisions, we would probably avoid that until a new auditor comes in, because I cannot take one employee's word over another at this point, being that, the past auditor has recently transitioned, and I wouldn't want to put anyone's livelihood in jeopardy based on a representation that's made. Not saying that is not an accurate representation, but I can't take that at face value just by hearing it from one individual and who would be perceived as fairly new to the organization and not maybe necessarily familiar with the current operation. So I can't speak to what's happening in that office. I would have to go in and do an assessment. From a management side, it's management of employees. It's not me going in trying to be an auditor. So if it's just management of employees for continuity of operations until we get a new auditor, not an issue, because I'm not making those types of decisions. But at any rate, it's concerning that the representations that are made here, which I'm not comfortable with as a human resources director in my capacity, about an employee's performance in a public arena. So that is concerning about some of the decisions that may be made at the management level right now. So I would just, hopefully that we can curtail that discussion.
So where does that put us?
Can I weigh in on something really quick, please?
Yes.
So I recognize everybody wants to put somebody from city management into this position. However, I do have to caution you against that. under city charter, we're required to follow generally government accepted standards, which is referred to commonly as Yellow Book. We currently have an audit of HR, so HR is not independent to make any decisions for our office. We currently have an audit of finance going on. They're not currently independent to make any decisions for our office. Both of the individuals that are CPAs over there, I know Susan and Linda have worked with us on those items and been providing answers to our requests, so they cannot step in to take over operations of the auditor's office until they have, it's either 1 or 2 years of separation from their function and management to be able to be independent to run the auditor's office under the charter requirements for standards.
Well, that's not under the charter. And I'm getting the same messages from John Herbst on my phone.
The charter,
So,
well, the charter
He's
says,
trying to inject himself in this conversation, so I don't know what
sorry.
communications you've had with him, but that's not necessarily true. It wouldn't be HR running the office or any part of the auditing part of the office. It would be strictly with regards to time, leave, things of that sort. If somebody has to apply for FMLA, assistance with leadership within the office, which I'm getting calls from employees as well, and I shouldn't because I'm the city attorney. So I'm just, the HR function would be just that. Nothing to do with auditing, nothing with the side of, and same thing with finance, if anybody from finance would be involved. Nothing on the auditing side at all. They don't look at anything, they don't see anything, they don't do anything in that regard. It's strictly with HR. Somebody wants some time off and they're denied time off, they can go to HR and say, hey, listen, I wanted this time off, it was denied. I want FMLA leave, I don't know how to do it. I don't think I'm being accommodated. They'd have somebody in HR to go to. That's what's being contemplated.
Okay, so what about non-performance or poor performance? How do we address that?
That becomes, the ultimate decision on that is difficult because that would be the city auditor, whoever in the place would be for
Right, but I
ultimate.
mean,
But
can we wait months for that to be resolved?
I can only equate it to when I stepped in as interim. You gave me the same edict that there was no hiring or firing.
Sure did.
I had a great team, and we worked together. Were there some people that were affectionate to my predecessor? Yes. But we worked with them. We tried to encourage them to work. Did you get the greatest productivity out of some people initially the first few weeks, the first month? Maybe not. But you work with those people and you try to get them to come forward because you're going to a common goal. I'm not saying that's not being worked on here, but rather than just disciplining, firing, or hiring, there's other ways to try to achieve that. And perhaps with injecting someone from another department, sometimes just from a psychological standpoint, that helps as well. So
All right,
again,
all right.
non-legal, I'm just speaking from my experience.
Yeah.
You gotta wait, I can't turn it off.
I have one question. Chris, are we able to hire an outside firm to come in and be the interim city auditor?
Yes. If you all choose that you want to do that, yes.
And the outside firm would come in on a day-to-day basis and work with the entire team?
If we structured it that way, yes.
I think that's what we need to do, is just bring in an outside firm for the next, until we hire the full-time person, because I think there's too many things happening. And if it's possible, I think we could probably hire them within 2 weeks, and bring them in. I think we need a fresh start.
Yep.
I'm just hearing too many rumblings. Too bad I'm not resigning earlier. I could come in and run the show. I'd be good at it.
You can always change your letter.
I could change
Start
my,
early.
actually, I did, yeah. I'm kidding. I'm not saying this lightly. I do actually like being in charge of everybody. And then another concern I have, is everybody in the city auditor's office working in person? Because
What's the question?
I'm wondering if everybody in the city auditor's office has come back in person to work.
currently, the audit manager without authority approved an individual to work in a different country for the last 2.5 weeks. So they're currently in a different country. As soon as I found out by that person on Friday, I put them on leave until I could talk to Tarlisha to find out how to proceed. The rest of the office has been working under John's prior direction. The audit manager comes in for somewhere between 2 and 4 hours a day, if that, maybe 3 to 4 days a week.
So Megan, I hate to interrupt you, but the
I
answer
was-
to the question was no. And
Okay,
we
so
don't
no.
need to play out the
This
rest of the
is-
personnel.
I was
This is
just
a very-
trying to get
this is
full
a-
information.
Hang on.
This is a very strange exercise for me. I'm not exactly
is.
comfortable with this. I don't even know why we're in this position, to be honest with
Steve.
you. But I think there's some serious intervention that has to happen in this department. This is obviously something that has not just occurred since the termination of the auditor.
That's what I
This is
said.
obviously something that's been festering for quite a long time. We need HR intervention, and whoever else the city manager thinks is necessary to bring this in. I don't care if it's an outside auditor firm. I don't care what it is, but whatever we have right now is absolutely not working. So I don't know how the rest of you feel.
Let me say this.
Go ahead.
They serve at the will of us in this charter office. We can do as we please because of what has been presented here today. We can say what we want to do, and that is the new temporary ordinance for us to move forward, because I don't feel comfortable either. I just don't. Something doesn't smell right. And we can do exactly as we proposed it. No changes, no hiring, no firing. Tarlisha will oversee the HR piece of it until we can get a handle on it with the consultant as well in case we have to move forward. Because to me, auditing is we hand you something, you go through it, you see if things add up or check out. It's not that difficult. But we have an issue right now that I do not feel comfortable with as well, Commissioner. And we need to stop it right now and give our orders and let's move on.
That's right.
Well, I think that's the outside firm on a temporary basis, personally.
But don't think it, say it.
I said it twice, said it 3 times. I think we need an outside firm to come in and take over and just get a fresh start. I think everyone needs to come back to work in person. Sorry if I asked the wrong question.
Something's wrong.
Yep. So I think that makes sense, and I think if an outside firm partners with Tarlisha, if that's all right, to help with
Just say it.
the
just tell
outside
what we
firm partnering with Tarlisha around some of the personnel challenges we're hearing, is probably the win-win.
There you go. Mayor, is that okay?
Say it again now?
Said it 3 times, but
So based upon the comments, Mayor, I think what I'm hearing is that you all would like to be presented with a proposal to bring an external firm in to serve as the function of city auditor during the period of time in which you've elected to move forward with a recruitment firm, specifically SGR, to identify the city's next auditor. During that period of time, there'll be no hiring and firing in the office. And that HR, and I want to be very clear, HR functions and HR functions only. I don't want to interject the manager's office into the audit function of the city, but HR functions will be overseen by our human resource director.
All right, just one thing. What is going, the outside firm is going to say, well, what's my job? What's the job description?
And when they get there, we'll deal with that.
Description.
We'll deal with it.
There is direction in the charter, and I understand as well, and staff from the auditor's office can confirm or deny, but there's an annual plan of regular audits. I think they're on a schedule, a rotating basis. They're working on some now, presumably. And to the extent that there's a request or if something arises where we have to have an audit, then obviously that direction could be provided by you or the city manager or someone else.
But who
knowing
organizes the projects? Who assigns work? Is that going to be their job?
that will be their job temporarily, yes. And through, again, exercising general auditing principles, presumably.
Okay. I mean,
Tarlisha,
if that's
you need
what
to-
you all want to do, I think it's messed up.
I do. And Tarlisha, you need to get over there sooner than later because something's wrong.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I just think that's messed up
I think she can take the
Why is that messed up, Mayor?
because an outside firm is going to come in. I've been through this before. Okay, an outside firm comes in, we pay them stupid money, okay? They sit there twiddling their thumbs and they watch what's going on. They don't make any decisions. They just sit, warm the seat until we find a permanent person. These folks that are working day in and day out, they're just, somehow they're working independently from one another. They don't, the outside firm doesn't know about priorities and which projects need to be assigned and dealt with first. They don't know what the outcome is supposed to be. They don't know anything about our processes. It's really
So
fakakta.
what do you want to see happen?
I think that originally what we had talked about, allowing Megan to serve as an interim
That's,
auditor.
Mayor, have you,
Well, you asked me the question. I'm going to finish the answer.
have you been listening to the
I'm going to finish
conversation?
the answer.
Okay, go ahead.
And working with Tarlisha, should there be personnel issues, but at least we know somebody who's been in the office for over a year, who knows what's going on in the office.
10 months.
Who knows, I'm not finished, who knows the assignments, knows the priorities, and knows the expectations of this commission. So, and to bring somebody in from the outside who doesn't know nothing about anything and just is going to be expensive, it's a waste of taxpayers' money, and I think it's just going to delay all the operations. But that's my opinion. You all can, I'm just one vote.
Well, based on what I've heard today, that's not going to work. That's just not going to work. There might be something that could work in between what you just said and what the others have expressed, but I don't think what you just said is
Okay,
going
so what is the consensus today?
I think we heard it.
Okay, so we're not voting right now. That's an issue tonight. We'll vote on it. Hopefully, cooler minds will prevail by the time we get to the issue tonight.
Are you talking about the four of us? Give me that. Pass that over here.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, before we get into business two, I'd like the clerk to set up the boxing ring, please, so that we can figure out how we're going to do the redistricting.
Four corners, yeah.
Um,
Wish I could see them.
Do we have our folks here from FAU? Oh, there you are. So just to bring people up to date, those who are listening and those who are in the audience, the city is required to consider the districting maps, the 4 districts that exist in Fort Lauderdale that's assigned to each commissioner as a reflection of the population and demographic changes within our community. So the 2020 census was undertaken and the results provided to the city, and the city commission engaged Florida Atlantic University and their esteemed staff to come up with proposals of how this commission will ultimately determine what the new districts will be. And right now, we're going to hear their report.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, City Administration. My name is Mike Stamm. I'm an adjunct faculty member with Florida Atlantic University. We are here today to present the map alternatives for the city of Fort Lauderdale. Real briefly, in my presentation today, I'll discuss our team, the parameters that we followed in terms of redistricting. We'll talk about the existing districts. We'll talk about the 2020 population and 2023 population projections. We'll talk about the map alternatives that we've created. I'll summarize those results, and then we'll provide a timeline as to where we are today. Our FAU redistricting team, there's 4 members on our team. With me today is Dr. Stephen Barassa. Many of you have already met Mr. James Gammett-Clark, Dr. Ronald Schultz, and I am Mike Stamm. Together we have combined over 50 or 60 years in terms of doing redistricting projects. This redistricting cycle, we've worked on numerous projects throughout the Tri-County area. So the redistricting parameters are very clear, and your charter provides a lot of guidance. The City Commission shall, by ordinance, adopt, create, and establish 4 separate and distinct geographical commission districts. These shall be of contiguous territory and as approximately equal in population as practicable. Non-contiguous parcels shall either be made of part of one of the districts, or if such parcels has a population approximately equal to another commission district to be created, then such parcels may be a commission district. After each census, the City Commission shall reestablish the boundaries of the 4 commission districts so that the districts shall be as approximately equal in population as practicable. So what are the parameters that we follow as we go through this process? Most importantly, population equity, a maximum of a 10% overall deviation from the ideal district size across all districts. We adhere to the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, where arbitrarily diluting minority populations is prohibited. Geographically, we look for contiguity and compactness. We follow major and natural boundaries where possible to make it easy for people to understand their district. We do our best to respect communities of interest. We minimize the degree of change in pre-existing patterns of districts as much as possible. But most importantly,
Can I jump in there what's communities of interest? What's the definition of that?
that definition could vary. We do look at things like neighborhood civic associations. Fort Lauderdale has many civic associations, so we do try to look at that information as it helps us make decisions.
Okay, so does integrity of communities of interest meaning not splitting those communities, like one in one district, one another? Is that what you're saying there?
We attempt to do that as much as possible.
But that's what you're saying there?
That's our goal, correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
And we try to minimize it as we go through the process. But no matter what we do, population equity is the most important. While these other options and parameters are significant, Population balance is really what we're trying to do. So the data set we used is the same data set we began with is the same data set that they're using everywhere else. It's the 2020 redistricting summary file called Public Law 94171. And we use residential population by census block. At other jurisdictions larger than this, so the state, they typically use census tracts. What we also did, because like many cities in South Florida, there's been a lot of growth since Census Day. We also approached your city staff to find out how much growth there has been, and we did a reprojection to try to count the people that'll be here by January 2023, so that should the commission adopt a map, that map won't be out of sync immediately. That's one of the challenges that we found with the delay in the data and kind of the delay in this process is that we haven't stopped. I heard during your previous meeting, there's a lot of construction projects going on in the city. We want to make sure we try to account for those as much as we can. We drew a line in the sand for January 2023, and we worked with your staff to come up with that projection.
Can I ask a question related to that?
Yes, ma'am.
Or do you want me to wait to the end?
Go ahead.
I'm just curious, what did we do in 2010? Did we take the numbers as of the 2010 census, or did we do the same, over a 2-year projection?
2020 census.
No? I mean, what did we do last time we
Oh, what did we
went
do last
through
time?
all of this? Because I want to make sure we're doing, for me, I'm a little confused why we are projecting. If the census is the census, then why are we doing the census plus some projections?
Vice Mayor, I was not part of your redistricting process. It's my understanding that this was done internally by staff. It was a year-long process from what again, hearing anecdotally what we've heard over time. One of the things that we have found with the 2020 census, number one, there was a delay in the release of the data. Normally, we get this data back in April. We really didn't start to get this data and start to piece through this data until August, September. That 3-month delay created some conundrums. Further, when we looked at some of the data and we look at your population growth, we could look and propose a map for 2020, but as I mentioned, your map, based on how we proposed it, could fall completely out of alignment within adoption. And what I mean by that is that the city has had a significant amount of growth. Our projections, based on the data we got from your staff, is almost 11,000 people, and we see it right here, 11,955 people additionally. And when you look at the composition of one of your districts, so on this slide, you can see it here. This is probably the best way to understand it, Vice Mayor.
I do understand your rationale. I'm just trying to say, are we being consistent? Because the more we kind of keep projecting forward, the more we're shifting our lines, is what I'm feeling. And so if we went to the 2020 numbers, then we wouldn't have to shift the lines quite so far. I just feel like a lot of these maps are very disruptive for, in districts, especially District 1 that needs to grow a little bit. But now we have to grow a lot and a lot more because of work. We keep adding and adding and adding. So I just feel like like I said, if the census is the census, why are we doing the census plus some? I just don't, it just doesn't make sense.
In other words, did we do that in 2010? Do you know?
So he doesn't think we did it internally.
It's my understanding that you did it internally. Mayor, Vice Mayor, if I could add one moment,
Okay.
one more comment on this thought process. So I appreciate everything you're saying. And by the way, your train of thought it's right on point, right? However, this would also create a kick the can kind of moment. And what do I mean by that? So the next time you redistrict, so we come into 2030, had we not looked at some of this data, the degree of change in 2030 would be even more extreme. And so, again, by looking at the data in this little short window, knowing that this growth has occurred, knowing that these projects have been CO'd or will be CO'd in the very, very short term, we think that we're putting you in the best position to move forward. Should the City Commission tell us to go back and redraw maps at 2020 process, we'll be happy to do so. But I caution that those maps more than likely will be out of alignment upon adoption.
Well, the question is it consistent with our charter to do projections as opposed to actual 2020 census data?
And again, I'll defer to your city attorney, but it says that we're using census data. We are using census data as our baseline. We are doing additional information there. And I do know that other cities that are not on the census cycle, so some cities redistrict every 4 years, for example. When they do this, they do the census and then they reproject. But again, we made this recommendation based on the amount of growth that you've experienced in your city. Should you not want to follow that path, we can go back to the drawing board.
Well, I guess, if we do choose to take this path now, then when we, have the numbers in 2030, it would be 2030 plus a couple years of projection. I mean, at some point, you just have to pick a consistent way and keep moving forward. So are we changing it now? I don't know. I just feel like the maps are pretty disruptive, but I'm sure every 10 years we're going to have the same feeling. I don't know. Maybe we didn't 10 years ago. What was it like? You guys were on?
I told you, prior to coming here, I started running in 2004. And this is my third redistricting. And each one I was impacted.
Each one's
Impacted tremendously, so much so that I woke up and my house was not in those districts anymore. So I kept navigating that path to put myself in position so it wouldn't happen again. That's something I did personally to keep up with what the law says. This time, I'm right smack dab in the middle. Did it impact me? Absolutely. I have an area that I'm very uncomfortable with in terms of if I put myself in a personal position to say that when re-elections come or if I decide to stay, it could impact the outcome of my race. But that's part of this process when you try to do it mathematically and not manipulate it based on our wants and our needs. So I'm willing to accept the outcome. If I have to bump this street or bump that street, that's one thing that I would consider, especially when it came to two of my colleagues being displaced. But there is a map that clearly puts both of you, keep you in your homes and give you an opportunity to serve your terms out. So I don't think it's about me. I think it's about the residents and how we have experienced this tremendous growth. And it's going to get even more progressive based on the trends that we are seeing now with our development in the city. It's going to get worse. I mean, you could tweak it now, but tomorrow it's going to catch up with you. I've been there, I've done that, and I've accepted the outcomes each and every time. But I would like to sit here today and see if we can come up with a consensus of what we have before us. I don't know what the timeline is for us to get it over to the county. I think we're already behind that 8 ball, city manager.
Well, we've been asked to have it as close to the middle of the month as we can. I don't know that it's a hard and fast deadline, but yes, we're working towards the middle of April.
So you asked me, I never would have given that today, but it really concerns me when two people have been disrupted, but we still have choices that can move this along and keep everybody in the game. I lose a piece of my district that I like, but that's
All right.
part of the deal.
Why don't you
All right,
continue with
thank
your
you.
presentation?
I'm sorry.
Why don't you continue with your presentation?
Thank you, Mayor. So what did the 2020 census tell us? City had a population of 182,760 people, which mean that each commission district would have approximately 45,690 people. When we project that out a little bit, again, just through the end of this year, really, it brings that district size up to about 48,675 people. So it's an additional plus or minus 3,000 people would that be added to each district when we look at it.
Question on that. Do you factor in like contingencies, things like inflation, hurricanes? Does that factor into your thinking?
So if you look at our report, we really, the census provides in the ACS, which is American Community Survey, a per person per household ratio. So we looked at the development, we looked at that per person per household ratio, and then we made some modifications for like assisted living facilities. We really don't look at that level of nuance in terms of our projection. Yeah. We kept it pretty straightforward. We're pretty confident. You know, obviously you'd love to be able to, factor in migration, this, that, and the other, right. But, we try to keep it as straightforward as we could.
Okay, thanks.
So again, looking at this information directly, you can see the two totals here. On the left side, we have our 2020 population. On our, in the middle there, we have the 2023 population. When we look at what this does for redistricting, District 4, based on the projection, has 7,812 people too many. They're too large. On the flip side, District 1 is undercounted by, or smaller than, by 6,000 people. So when you look at those two numbers together, that 16% over and that 12% under, that gives us our spread between the two districts. That total spread, 28.51%, is outside of the parameters for typical redistricting efforts. That number should be 10% or less. And obviously, the goal of redistricting is more getting it as close as we can, that population equity, getting it close to a 1-to-1 ratio as possible. So again, just pointing on this slide, if you see those two arrows, this really leads us into how we have to redistrict. The Vice Mayor's district, District 1, needs to grow by at least 6,000 people. Commissioner Sorensen, your district has to be decreased. We got to get everybody closer to that 48,679. Now, that simple statement sounds easy as peace, right? However, when we touch one district, it has a domino effect, and it affects all the districts based on where the growth patterns are at and where the population exists in the city. So, a deeper dive into the numbers. As I just mentioned, again, the Vice Mayor, you had a really good question in terms of just looking at that 2020 data. Had we not done it this way, 2030 would be even more dramatic, because we already know, looking at the map today with 2020 data, it was out of alignment. So I'm going to point to the 2020 column percentage of city and the deviation. Just today, based on the 2020 data, we still would have to redistrict. We're over 12.5%. So we'd have to make some dramatic changes just with today's data to make that work. So again, we feel that we're putting you in the best position to move forward, to minimize the degree of change over time. One little other anecdote, if we remember, 2010, we were coming out of the recession or into the recession. We know that vacancy numbers in the census data in the 2010 data set were really high. Most cities were somewhere between 7 and 12% vacant. So, this census, we're a little bit more confident in those numbers, and I think these projections put you in a much better position. So we've created 4 map alternatives for you. Each of the alternatives kind of focus on this overall pattern of change. District 1 needs to grow, District 4 needs to decrease, and then they go through iterations to make that happen. It's important to note that every map that we created impacts every district. You can't just make a change for one district that won't impact another district. There's a circular effect that happens. There should be some change or some type of change in every map option. Each map basically provides just a different way to look at the data set and to show how the districts can be configured. We did not arbitrarily dilute any minority populations. All the numbers stay very close. And most importantly, we tried to maintain population equity in each one of these options, while also following along with the compactness and the contiguity that's required. So let me go into alternate 1. So this option provides a western expansion for District 1. The total deviation in this option is 1.78%. The mean deviation is 0.44. The spread is 1.45. This is very close in terms of population equity. I mean, we are everybody's district is, each commissioner's district and each district location is within a very close deviation. So some of the summary that happens here. District 1 gains 12,000 people from District 2, north of 13th and west of US 1. Typo there, I apologize. East of Power Line. District 2 gains 5,528 people north of Oakland Park, the Galt area. They also gained 1,275 people from District 1, just south of Sunrise Boulevard. They gained 3,000 people east of the Intercoastal from District 4, so that area down in the south there. And then the biggest portion, they gained 10,853 people in that Las Olas area. District 3 gained 6,062 people south of 13th and west of the FEC Railway. District 4, since they've lost population in some of these other iterations, they come back and they pick up a little bit of population in the west, and we make the boundary Davie Boulevard there. So I'm going to go back to the way the map looks, or I'll come back to that in just a moment. You also pick up a little bit of population in District 4 in the Sailboat Bend area. So let's get to the numbers. If you look at the numbers and the percentages, again, our goal is to try to get everybody as close to 48,679 as possible. As you look here, District 1 is just below the number slightly. District 2 is just over the number slightly. District 3 just below. District 4 just below. Again, these numbers are really good. The population equity is really of the primary importance here, and we also make a more compact map. So then we go on to alternative 2. Again, our deviations change slightly. Still, this is really a western push by District 1 as they come around. This obviously has a much bigger change to District 1 in this option. So District 1 picks up, again, the area north of Sunrise, kind of goes back up to Power Line. That population change is about 15,000 people in that area. District 2 makes some of these other changes that we've discussed before. The big one here is that they pick up 4,434 people east of Bayview and south of Sunrise, the area south of Sunrise also. Again, we make the same change with the 10,853 people in the Las Olas area, and the same change with the 3,278 people on the intercoastal of District 4. What this does in this option, it kind of creates a beach commissioner in a sense. One commissioner represents the entire beach in this option. District 3 again picks up a little bit of population, 6,500 people directly east of their current boundary, follows Andrews and 15th. District 4 picks up the Sailboat Bend area again, and then also the 3,497 people that are just south of Davie Boulevard.
Is there any downside? I don't know how this all works, but is there any downside to having one district represent the majority of the beach and the majority of downtown Fort Lauderdale? Or is that great?
I really believe that's your preference as a commission.
Wow.
You know how your day-to-day operations are. Remember, we're looking at a math problem. We're looking at a math problem, and designing that math problem, we're looking at compactness, contiguity, and trying to use as easily identifiable boundary. That could be a discussion for the commission in terms of this option. It may be something the commission may say, you know, we don't think this is an advantage. That's really a discussion there. We're giving you the option.
An advantage of what?
Well, no, it could be your advantage or non-advantage. Again, one of the things we heard in the community meetings was that people may have to go to multiple commissioners. So should beach issues all be handled by one commissioner? I think there was a comment during the community meeting that if they're on the river, it should be only handled by one commissioner. So again, when looking at this, there could be, some people may say there's an advantage, some people may say it's a disadvantage. It's really up to the thought process of the commission, and you as a collective body making that decision process.
Is a downtown considered a community of interest?
The downtown doesn't have the same kind of neighborhood construct as others. There's different pieces in there. Again, I anticipate, you know, you've got a lot of rental communities, some other items in there. It could be. It could be. It's obviously where some of your growth is occurring.
Yep.
You know, you've got a big push in terms of density down there.
Okay, and the beach could be a community of interest or not, or
Again,
trying to understand your definitions.
potentially, sure.
Okay.
But within the beach, you know, you have multiple civic associations that are represented in various components of the beach.
Yep. Okay. Thanks.
So alternative 2, again, you're looking at the total numbers, and you can see where the numbers are at today. The numbers are still very strong. You know, when you look at the highest and the lowest, all 4 districts are very close to that 48,679 people. The percentages, again, we're very close. The first 3 options are very tight in terms of population equity. Option 4 pulls the numbers out just a little bit. So we're on to option 3. Now this option, this really changes how District 1 picks up their population. In lieu of going west, the population goes to the east. So District 1 would add in the area south of Oakland Park, along the coast, and back around the intercoastal here. I'm going to go through these individually. That area picks up about 6,635 people. District 2 picks up 371 people, basically just east of right around US 1 area. They also have to pick up that 10,853 people from District 4 down in the Las Olas area. District 3 makes their gains around Sunrise Boulevard, south of Sunrise, along the FEC Railroad. And District 4, again, these same changes down in the area west of south of Davie Boulevard.
I have a question about this map.
Yes, sir.
And this might involve the city attorney. So, city attorney, help me. I think you've told us that once this commission chooses a map, it goes into effect almost immediately?
Yeah, that's up to you. I mean, typically it goes into effect immediately or within a few days.
Within a few days. But our charter, correct me if I'm wrong, says that a district commissioner has to live within the district that they're representing, correct?
Correct, and it
So
has.
how would how would Alternative 3 work
Don't kick me out.
if the district commissioner for District 2 has to move into District 1 and takes effect the next day? In this instance, it would be me. How could I live in a district that I'm not representing that violates our charter?
Commissioner, the best way for me to answer that question is that we're really looking at a population puzzle. So in defining this map, what we did is we looked at trying to create a map that was contiguous, that had the least amount of impact. Again, where a commissioner sits really doesn't factor heavily into our thought process.
Well, maybe not your thought process.
Oh, no, Commissioner,
But
with the greatest respect, I think
I
your
think
colleague
Brian
alluded to that
Donaldson
earlier.
has an apartment for you.
I don't even know why. I don't even know why. Well, if the city attorney strike that, I mean, it seems that it had to be a consideration of yours only because why would you bother if it's not even doable?
Commissioner, in all fairness, I'm gonna go back to the map real quick, and I just want to point out a couple things by just looking at the map. So when you look at this map, what you see, for instance, District 1 doesn't loop back around. It stays on the coast. District 2 becomes more compact.
I'm okay with all of that. My question again is, how could we have a map that violates our charter? That's all I'm asking.
Well, technically it doesn't.
Let's move, so
Okay.
that alternative is not doable, so let's move
Okay,
on.
I just wanted to bring that to everyone's
All right,
attention.
we get
Yeah,
the
I do want to say publicly, this is I think the best and least disruptive map. I would not vote for it because I wouldn't vote my fellow commissioner out of office because I really do care about him. So, but I think this is the best map. I'm just going to say that for the record, but I know it's just, it doesn't make sense.
Well, I just don't know how we could implement it legally. That's
I
all.
know.
You could, but you'd be out of a job.
Well, you could
Yeah,
run in
I'm not going
November.
to vote you out, but I do think it's the best map.
Okay, thank you.
You could run in
the
November for
record.
District 1.
I just needed some clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, you
Vice
could
Mayor,
read-
you might have to give me a hug after all.
So many
you could
tears
read-
would be.
The timing might work out, Steve. This is
It's okay.
Your seat warm.
Timing might work out. All right, let's move along. Thank you.
change my date.
So, I do need to point out that of all of the numbers, this number has the lowest spread, so this has the most population equity out of all of our maps. And again, yeah, we'll just go from there. Alternative 4. Alternative 4. When you look at Alternative 4, I mentioned that each of the first three options have almost very close population equity. In this option, we have 4.45% spread. So the equity is still within the 10% variation, which is allowed, but the numbers go a little bit higher. As you look at this option, again, District 1 gains the 12,073 people north of 13th. District 2 picks up the population along Bayview and around the Galleria area. They also, again, as we've done in each of these options, pick up the population, the 10,853 people around the New River. District 3 gains population here following the railroad tracks. District 4, similar changes here, the Sailboat Bend area and then the area south of Davie Boulevard. Again, looking at the numbers, you can see that the spread, so District 2 in this situation is higher. District 1 was higher, District 2 is on the lower end here. Again, this option also factors in even more future growth, which we've discussed during some of our other meetings. Again, but the spread here is the highest of the four options that we've presented to you.
Can you go back to that map, please?
I'm sorry.
Can you go back to that map, please?
I'm sorry.
To the map.
Just waiting to catch up.
Yeah, the one before.
Map 3.
One more time. There we go.
There we go. So this puts South Middle River in District 1, but it keeps the commissioner in his district, right? Am I reading that right? Okay. Just alternative 4. Okay, this keeps the commissioner in his district, but what it does, however, is it puts Coley Hammock in District 2. Am I reading that right?
Yes.
Yes.
It adds Coley-Hammock, Harbor Beach, Beverly Heights, East
Downtown
Las
Las
Olas
Olas.
to Sailboat Bend, and also Sunrise Intracoastal into District 2. But it splits Middle River Terrace, and it
Splits Coral Ridge.
splits, yes, and it also splits South Middle River.
So I think this is a workable map, but we just need to flip a little. I mean, we got to massage this a little bit because we don't really want that. I think we need to keep, for example, Coley Hammock in District 4. And I don't think it makes sense to split South Middle River and Middle River Terrace.
Coral Ridge.
But we're talking, I mean, everything else seems to work. I'm just looking at it objectively now as best I can.
But as the Vice Mayor says, it also puts 2/3 of Coral Ridge into District 2, keeps 1/3 of Coral Ridge into District 1.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Can we go back and maybe look at each map one by one, except 3?
So it puts District 2, it gives them the east side of Bayview Drive okay,
Coral Ridge.
that's not cool.
2 and 4 split Coral Ridge, so I can't support those
Can't
two.
split that in half. All right.
So-
All right, never
So,
mind.
commissioners, we put together a little bit of a summary slide here so that you can see all the options in terms of the numbers. We try to identify as much as possible where the splits occur. I know your staff even talked about it. Census blocks don't necessarily always recognize a neighborhood boundary or a civic association boundary. They're pretty close, but there are some options here. But when you look at all the numbers together, when you look at the deviations, the spreads, and what we provided, again, if it's the commission's desire to pick an option and say, okay, hey, let's work off of this option, make some small tweaks, I think that's something we can accommodate. But right now, some of the options here, all the options here split some neighborhoods in some way, shape, or form. In fact, your current map has a split district, neighborhood. So again, if the direction is, and again, we've received all the feedback that came in through the public comments, is there a map that doesn't split any neighborhoods? If the direction from commission to do that is to come back and draw a map that doesn't split a neighborhood, it may not give us, and it may not work, in terms of the population spread. Again, we're working with this idea that we have to be under 10%.
Right, but the thing is, these neighborhood associations are very active and very proud and very territorial.
Understood.
And, not in that order. And we have to respect that. That's the thing. And so, now there was another map circulating. Do we have that map available? There was like a rogue map that was circulating that helped answer some of these questions.
We've received a couple maps from public that came in through the public comments. We've looked at those maps from a population equity standpoint.
Right.
The challenge that came in with some of the other maps is that they were using the 2020 data. And even within the 2020 data, many of the maps did not meet the population equity threshold. By the way, the good news is that their thought process was right on point with where we were going, but when we looked at some of those maps that came through, they just didn't meet the population equity threshold. Again, we're here to serve the commission. We're your client. You're our client, rather. We're here to give you the best feedback that we can. But obviously, we have to have that direction has to happen in this kind of forum where we can take that feedback and go forward. If I'm going to add one more item, I know you can't vote on anything today. What we have had success with in other cities, if there is this thought process, and I heard one of the commissioners allude to it, or some of you allude to it, that, look, option 3 isn't going to work. If you eliminate option 3, now we're down to 3 options, and we're only focusing on 3 options. If option 4 falls in that sense too, that, hey, can you look at option 1 and option 2, and is there some sort of hybrid that comes off of those? I think
your point, though, is well taken. Let's pick a map that's as close as possible to where we want to be, and let's work with that map and move neighborhoods around that comport with our expectations. So when I say our, I mean our expectations. So I think it was the last map. Was it alternative? What was the one that I was referring to? Was it alternative 3? The last.
Three,
No.
we were talking about 4.
Was it 4? Okay.
But we
can
all said it splits a lot.
It splits a lot, right?
Yes, it splits Middle River Terrace, it splits South Middle River, it splits Coral Ridge.
Well, alternative 3 just splits Central Beach Alliance.
Well, no, but alternative 3 moves the district commissioner out of the district.
Best map.
Sorry. Or maybe not.
1. Let's move. All right, so let's go to 1.
So the last thing I was going to just mention is this is where we're at today. And again, this is really for the public to let them know how we've gotten to this process. We submitted our report to you about the population. We held a commission meeting to gain feedback. We had a public outreach meeting, which, again, we took all the information that we got during those meetings. We submitted our report, and then there's been a public comment period where we've taken in a lot of the comments. A lot of those comments came around not splitting this neighborhood or not splitting this neighborhood. There was a real, and Mayor, you hit the button on the head. You know, there's a passion within the civic associations that needs to try to be met as much as possible. The goal, obviously, today and later tonight was to have first reading of a map option. I defer to your city attorney in terms of if you selected option 1, but you'd like some small tweaks, if that's something that we could do. And again, I defer to him because I heard that maybe could be a possibility here. Obviously, we had tentatively scheduled second reading for the 19th, and then getting that map to the supervisor of elections. Again, I just wanted to reiterate the timeline to kind of everybody on the kind of the same page, because that supervisor piece is really important. They need to redraw precincts. And I think that's just it's a vital component that's out there.
Well, we really appreciate the work. I know there's a lot of work that went into this, and don't let any of the comments today be a reflection at all about our appreciation for what you've been able to do. It's just it's just trying to squeeze a size 10 into a size 4, and we're trying to do our best to accommodate neighborhood expectations as well as the realities of where. Of what we're dealing with in terms of where the residents of the members of the commission, as well as the projections, as you say, of population going forward. So, any questions right now, or can we just have?
I had one question. I just wanted to make sure you did get together with our Department of Sustainable Development, only because the last time I did notice there was some errors in the projections going into 2023 with the buildings coming online. That's all squared away?
We did. So the projection, we reduced the projection from 16,000 down to 11. They gave us some updated information. We made that correction. That's all factored in here.
Cool, thank you.
Yep.
All right,
Thank you.
So alternative 1, correct me if I'm wrong, but that has all of Coral Ridge in District 1. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so, and it keeps the Commissioner Glassman in his district, correct?
Yes.
All right, so let's start from that.
Yeah, but Mayor, I have some just concerns with this option 1.
I'm sorry?
I have some concerns with option 1.
Yeah. Well, so we're going down the road, okay? We're heading down Bayview Drive, okay?
Oh, you're starting north, okay? We're
We're literally going down the road.
going down the good.
Drive, okay? All right.
I'll enjoy the scenery.
So follow me.
Are we
follow me.
Yeah, I'll follow you.
Let me
Howard,
describe what it looks
follow me,
like.
We
okay?
should have glasses.
There yet, Mayor?
Have glasses.
Are we there yet? Yeah.
Virtual
A lot of
glasses.
construction on Bayview.
What's that?
Yeah. I'm explaining what it looks like. A lot of construction on Bayview. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
All right, there are a few speed bumps, but just,
Okay.
all right, so
Roundabouts coming.
we come down and now Sunrise Intercoastal now becomes part of 2, right?
Yes.
So, okay, and we also see Las Olas Boulevard now all swallowed up in 2, as opposed to where it is now, where the retail end of it is part of District 4.
You know what would have been a happy situation for these maps? These maps, if you also had superimposed on every single one of these maps, the neighborhood association, that would have been helpful.
We kind of know what they are, though.
I know, but I'm just saying, it makes
We
it
kind of know what they are.
quick, easy. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
So, Commissioner Sorensen, now we're sort of into your territory,
Yes.
your current territory. So, why don't you pick up the conversation from there?
Sure. So just look, I'd really like to be able to maintain some portion of Las Olas, the kind of main
So-
thoroughfare.
So the canal that currently divides 2 from 4.
Right.
Okay, if we kept that
Right.
and just, I don't know, what is the population?
10,000, like, it looks
It's-
like 10,853.
That area, yeah, so if you, Mayor, if you look at the map that's here, and this is in your backup there, the area that's there has about 10,800 people. It's part of a much bigger area. It's again, a couple of neighborhoods, but it's part of a much bigger area. That's a significant piece of property. So if that change were to come into 4, it would
you're-
have a circular effect on all the rest of the options.
Yeah, but you include Sailboat Bend in there
In 4.
as far as
Right.
the 10,800.
No.
Oh.
Sailboat Bend's separate at 2,700.
No, look to the bottom left. That's part
Oh,
of the
you're right, you're right.
2745.
So there are 10,853 people that live in that section?
That area
Okay.
has a lot of density.
I mean, there's single-family homes. I don't know. Wait, I guess there's.
No, that's a lot. They're condos. There's,
Okay, there's
Yeah,
there's,
there's
Icon, I guess. There's
Yep.
Amar. Okay.
yeah,
All right. So,
River-
New 808 building.
Las Olas Grand, 808,
808 to new
Lot of-
808 building will be coming.
the
there.
wonderful projects there.
let it go.
Let it go.
So, what can you do? Can you put Sailboat Bend back in 2? But it's just, that's such a big population chunk there, the 10,853. Trying to see where you make that up. And then the other concern I have just about District 4 for the moment is just and I know District 4 is going to have to give up some geography, but then the eastern on the beach, like when you look at Harbor Inlet, Mayor, down at the southeast, and then Harbor Beach, I mean, just
Well, okay. So what if we flip
a lot
that?
of concerns. Yeah.
What if we flip the Las Olas Hammock from Harbor Beach? Because they're both. So if you added the 10,853 back to District 4,
Okay.
and then you gave Harbor Beach to District 2, that's
That already happens in this option, Mayor.
that already happened. Okay.
Because you could give Sailboat Bend back to District 2 as well, but you still fall so short of the population.
Commissioner,
Change.
if I can interrupt you there.
Yeah.
In this option, you could not give Sailboat Bend back. It wouldn't be contiguous.
Yes.
Okay, go back to that. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even get you to the numbers anyway.
The biggest challenge that we have is this density that's kind of occurring.
Well, I mean, what if you went, I can't tell exactly, tell me your first name.
My name's Mike.
Mike, okay, Ben. Mike, I can't tell what the boundary is. Maybe it's, gosh, I don't know what it is. The boundary between Sailboat Bend and that Las Olas section.
So we're using the FEC Railroad there.
Okay, that's a railroad, great.
Yeah.
So what happens if you move that east a couple blocks, more than, several blocks to 2? So then that would make that section contiguous to 2 and Sailboat Bend contiguous to 2, and you'd diminish the 10,000 number. See what I'm saying?
Again, it's going to be very difficult for us to do this on the fly.
Yeah,
But
I get it.
if the commission's desire is to, and I'm going to use just as an example, I'm not recommending. Hey, we think the construct of option 1, alternate 1 is good, right? Generally, right? But we'd like some small tweaks.
Correct.
Right.
And this is where we think the tweaks could occur.
Yep.
We could go back and evaluate those options and, get you that information. I'd hate to do this on the fly.
Yeah,
and-
okay, that's fair. So Commissioner Glassman, do you see what I'm suggesting? I don't know if that makes sense.
I do know that right next to the FEC, you do have, you have a brand new, fairly dense building in that riverfront area. And then as you keep
Right.
moving further east, there's a lot of, right near literally across the street from FAU, there's some pretty dense buildings
Right.
in that area.
Commissioner, the goal is to do what on this now with those tweaks?
So just throwing out ideas, Commissioner, I'm saying, what if Sailboat Bend went to District 2? Then you go east past the tracks, Commissioner. So still south of Broward Boulevard, east of the tracks, and that also goes to District 2. Maybe to, let's just look at Andrews or, block past Andrews, 2 blocks past Andrews, that would go to District 2. And then a portion of the Las Olas Boulevard downtown would go back to District 4.
How far east on Las Olas back to District 4?
I don't know, whatever
Where the canal is.
whatever the numbers would.
To that,
To District 4, yeah. So the canal.
the Sasboro Canal?
Yeah, the Sasboro.
The, just east of Coley Hammock.
Just east of Coley Hammock, yeah.
Gotcha.
So, Commissioner Sorensen, what you're alluding to is putting the, like Beverly Heights and Coley Hammock area back into District 4,
4.
Yep.
and trying to swap the population, the area west of there, putting it into 2.
Right.
Okay, no, I'm just trying to make sure I'm following your thought process
Yeah.
there.
Yes, that's a possibility. And Sailboat Bend stays contiguous through Flagler Village, correct, for District 2?
Well,
Right.
it would stay contiguous through the other side of the tracks, so
Yes.
the District 2 would come down and then take a little bit further west.
And then
From a compactness standpoint, it does, again, your current district goes that far west, Commissioner Glassman. So again, we were trying to get away from there, but I understand the direction that you were trying to approach in there.
Right.
I realize, look, the whole goal, I believe from every commissioner, is that you've spent a lot of time in your district and you know your neighborhoods, you spend a lot of those things, and I appreciate this part of the conversation. Again, this is something that we could take a look at if given the proper direction.
Well, I think it's good that we're doing it all together here. It's because I know we had the opportunity to individually go one-on-one, but I think this is a better forum now that we all hear one another, what we have to say and how we can sort of hammer out the little bit more refinement of this alternative to try to put together the most appropriate map that we can. I know there are a few people that have signed up to speak.
Mayor, just one other thought, as we look at that, just, we're brainstorming that option, then a downside to that is it just splits the downtown Fort Lauderdale Civic Association, kind of the north side of the river and the south side. So just, that's one impact. Yeah. For Melinda, as Melinda's here, looking at that.
She'll beat you up if you.
Right, yes.
Stan, I also wonder, when you went through the maps, you said map option 2 gives you basically a beach commissioner, but so does this map.
Correct. It's-
Map 1 does the same
It
exact
falls along that
thing.
same line,
Right.
correct. District 3 is the one, or option 3 is the one that does not.
What, is that pro con, just pros cons of all of that southern portion of the beach in one district? Any feedback on that?
What's your question?
Yeah. I was just asking, do we see any positive, negative of all of the beach being in District 2? Harbor Inlet, Harbor Beach. Because, for example, Harbor Inlet has had a lot of similar issues, believe it or not, with folks out west in my district, Lauderdale Isles, around planes, water stuff. So, anyway, it's just another thought. So what would be the go forward? It would be you all working on this, coming back to us with, I'm just trying to understand.
So I'm going to defer to the city attorney, but I think he alluded to this previously, that if an alternate was selected with some tweaks.
Right, so again, recognizing the timeline we're on, if we can get the most feedback, it's certainly.
Yeah, we're still talking.
Right, so it's to your pleasure what you want to do. I just wanted to make sure that whatever direction came to them for any alternative maps came from you.
All right, so let's
Okay.
keep going. Though.
Gotcha.
Can I?
Okay.
Can I?
Go ahead.
I also wanted to ask, when there was a public workshop, you had a public workshop, did you take any of that? Because I had some folks at my pre-agenda meeting last night tell me that they never heard anything back from anyone, or they had submitted some comments, and
So,
how did those comments play out?
so city staff forwarded those comments to us, and we looked at some of those comments. Most of the comments had the same general theme. Theme 1, try to keep neighborhoods together. Theme 2, we had a map submitted. We looked at it. The numbers just didn't work. Again, we just put it through the system really quick. But then there were very specific themes for neighborhoods. So, hey, this option splits this neighborhood. This option splits this neighborhood. There was a thought that none of these options should work, that we needed, I think I read 4 emails that said, don't redistrict, or, why do we need to do this? Everything's fine as is.
All right, so getting back to this map, you see at the top there where it says from District 1 to District 2, population 5,528. That's the Galt Ocean Mile area, correct?
Correct.
Now, if you return that to District 1, can we go and push back where it says from District 2 to District 1? Can we push back?
So, Mayor, looking at that, then you have to think about who gains that population.
Right.
So if it goes to District 2, then we're looking at,
No, if it goes from District 1 to District 2, District 2 is gaining population, right?
so what you're suggesting is District 1 gained 5,528 people.
Right.
So that means District 2 then needs to
Shrink.
offset.
Gain
Needing-
5,000.
They need to gain 5,000
You
people.
need to gain
somewhere.
5,000.
And where they gain that, we've got to take that away from 1. So then we're going, and they only share a boundary around 13th there. So it kind of puts us back. It's a circular effect.
Wait, so District 2 loses 5,000 if you return the Galt to District 1, correct?
I understand.
All right. So we have to gain 5,000 somewhere. So if you go down a little bit to the left, where it says from District 2 to District 1, you move that line that's along the green area, move that a little further east.
We talked about this at length, Mayor, but if you have any new updates, yeah.
The challenge with that, then District 3 grows too much.
Well, it's okay because we can make adjustments, but you're splitting a neighborhood there.
No, it's not okay.
No, but I'm saying it's okay just for discussion purposes because by moving that further east, Commissioner, we're keeping South Middle River in District 2. That's what that neighborhood is, South Middle River. So if you keep South Middle River in District 2,
I get all that. What I think what we're missing is
yes,
this is a mathematical problem, and at the end it has to be equal in all 3 quadrants.
Right.
So if you take 5, it's going to keep going around. It's going to impact somebody somewhere.
right.
When we start injecting our will, our way, our personal choices, but the math can do it. But we can move. Say that Coley Hammock. We could bump that HOA or bump that up without a huge numerical shift, if I'm correct from what I'm seeing. And maybe somewhere else. But when we start talking about these splits, which you traditionally had splits, whether you like it or not, I got split and I got hit side to head 10 years ago. So splits occur when we did it, gerrymandering. Splits occur when we do it mathematically. So the question would be to the facilitator, how do we take the magic number 5,000 and make it work based on what we're saying now?
So, we've really looked at this. Commissioner, I'm going to answer it like this. So the typical question we get is, if I need to grow, why do we take? And I think I paraphrased that correctly,
Yes.
Vice Mayor,
Oh,
right?
yes, that 20 times. I have to grow. Why are you taking?
Right?
Yes.
So, but the problem is that it really becomes a shifting of the population.
Right.
So, and where your density and where your development is at, it's all cyclical, right? So you take from here, you move from here. You move from here, you move from here. Every time you take a piece, you've got to make that adjustment in the pieces. And that's really where the challenge is at here. I know, and I've heard everybody, just to come pick up 5,000, We can move that boundary a little bit higher than 13th, but again, we're still splitting neighborhood. We're still splitting, sorry, I'm going back to my notes, South Middle River Terrace Association in that same scenario. So again, the same thing, and we're doing it here in this option already. It follows along the same track that you will continuously pick up here to pick up here.
Right, but it's okay because we're trying to make you more sensitive to some of these neighborhood needs. So when I said, for example, returning the Galt Ocean Mile area back to District 1, okay, now we're adding population to District 1 and taking it away from District 2, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so now if we did the reverse in South Middle River, we have the equilibrium that we're seeking.
But South Middle River, I think, has over 8,000.
It's pretty dense. South Middle River as a whole has almost over 8,000.
8,000.
Well, it's okay, but we're just working with numbers right now.
I understand.
So it's not going to be equal. I mean, we can make adjustments in different areas, but I'm just trying to move this map around.
Mayor, if I could, is the goal to put South Middle River in District 2 to make that is so? And I'm asking because it seems like that's where you're going with it. But in the previous comment, you said maybe moving District 3 further to the east, and that boundary there is South Middle River. That's why I was a little confused by.
So, Mayor, what is your goal? Mayor, what is your goal and why?
My goal is to start to redraw this map based on this as a framework, and starting with District 1, returning the Galt to District 1.
Why?
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 Because I just think there's a history there that has been there forever, and I think that even though the current president has said they don't mind being in District 2, I just think that the people that live in District 1 today, if we can keep it as intact as possible as the way it is now, I think it makes everybody happier rather than trying to shuffle everyone around. I just think it's going to create less anxiety. So if we keep the Galt in District 1, which I think the district commissioner would prefer, right?
Well, I'd like Sunrise Intercoastal back too.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying we're getting there.
Okay.
So if we allow District 1 to retain the Galt, that means they have an increase of 5,528. But down in South Middle River, where you've given District 1 that area, if we move that line over and return it to District 2, that helps create an equilibrium where they've restored the balance after giving the Galt back to District 1. So there's an example of where you can restore the balance after returning the Galt to District 1. So I'm just trying to give you some examples of how we can best realign some of these boundaries to get the balance that we need to achieve. Now, you're saying that South Middle River is 8,000 people, right?
Approximately, yeah.
Right. So if we go down now to what the Vice Mayor just said, the Sunrise,
Intercoastal, Sunrise Intercoastal,
Sunrise
1,275.
Intercoastal, there's 1,275 right there.
That's our 8,000. Galt plus Sunrise.
I'm sorry?
I said that's the 8,000.
There you got the
Yeah,
8,000.
that's what I.
Yeah. So you put those two numbers together, you're close to almost 8,000. You're at 7,000.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I am interrupt for just a moment, the problem is that to get to the Middle River Association, we would then have to alter District 3 because they wouldn't be contiguous in this option.
You mean South Middle River?
To get to South Middle River where.
You said Middle River.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, South Middle River. To get there, you would have to alter District 3.
I
So
understand.
the area, can you see the mouse on the screen here?
Yeah.
That the triangular area, that's 6,062 people in this option, the South Middle River, that would not be contiguous. So you're actually not just picking up 8,000, you're actually moving closer to 10 or 12,000.
Well, not necessarily, because we'll get to that. I mean, there's a way to create contiguity, okay? We're just not there yet, all right? So that what is it, a trapezoid that you've
Triangle?
created there?
Yep.
Right, it was really, I think we're.
You're creating a trapezoid. It's a triangle on this map.
If we take the triangle.
Trapezoid. Look at you, trapezoid.
Yeah. I think it's really just the triangle we need to play with.
Anyway,
Give the triangle to 2, and then it becomes continuous.
if you adjust that, if you
Contiguous.
adjust that piece so that while you show it goes from District 2 to District 3, not all of it has to be erased from District 3, just enough to create a connection between, between the two neighborhoods, not the whole thing. Right now, District 3 does not have that area, right? That's not in District 3.
It's correct.
Correct.
So if we move some of it back to District 2, it's a more natural association
Well,
with District 2 than
In
it
map,
would-
map one, Mayor, I
Still in
think,
map
I
one.
think South Middle River is split between District 1 and District 3.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
Right, and Middle River is split between District 1 and District 3.
Right.
Give it
Yes,
all
I know,
to
I know
2.
that. So we're trying to adjust for that.
And Lake Ridge is split between District 1 and District 2.
Okay, but you're not, you're changing the subject.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. So, anyway, you see where I'm going in trying to shave off certain areas, blocks that you've created that will help to create the equilibrium that that we need to achieve in order to satisfy the goals of the Voting Rights Act. So, so try to work in that pattern, and I think we'll be far more successful because I just don't think that, changing everything. I mean, it's like you took the whole puzzle and flipped it on its side and all the pieces are all over the table. And like, we got to somehow figure it all back again. And that isn't fair to the community to say, okay, I'm just going to start all over again as if we didn't have a community here. But we have a community here and we have an infrastructure, we have a history, and we have neighbors that don't want to be split.
But Mayor, you're also mentioning just certain neighborhoods. But for instance, in this map,
Yeah.
Your neighborhood, you live in Poinsettia Heights. Are you happy to move into District 1? I mean, maybe that
Ask James
neighborhood,
Green, he'll have a comment on
maybe that neighborhood. I mean, you're picking and choosing just certain neighborhoods.
I can't talk about every single neighborhood.
Well, I understand, but I want to talk about all the
But and that's what the purpose of
right,
the exercise.
because in this map, Poinsettia Heights moves into District 1. Progressive Village moves into District 3. Have we asked them? Sailboat Bend, as we know, is in District 4 in this map because we're talking about moving that. And then
We're getting there.
have we asked Harbor Beach? Have we asked?
We're getting there.
Okay.
We're
I'm
getting there.
just mentioning that there are other neighborhoods
Well, of
that
course.
we need to talk
Of course.
about. Okay.
We're moving around in the map.
Okay.
Anyway.
So Mayor, if I were to gather that direction, it would be specifically to minimize degree of change.
Yes.
Yes.
I think we're all in agreement on that,
Yes.
right? So
Option
minimize the
th-
degree
yeah.
of change.
Option 3 is the best, but it doesn't work. So let's try to make option 1 look like 3. Minimal change.
Make some added suggestions or ideas?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So there's another idea is just, I'm talking about the interplay between District 4 and District 2. So District 4, Sailboat Bend remaining with District 2, continuing east. So the Downtown Civic Association eastern border is Federal Highway. So what if Sailboat Bend stayed with District 2, the portion east of that would go to District 2 would stop at Federal Highway. Federal Highway is the eastern boundary of the northern portion of the Downtown Fort Lauderdale Civic Association. Just east of Federal Highway starts Beverly Heights. So that and Coley Hammock would stay District 4. We don't know what that population set would be, but it'd be obviously much less than the 10,000. Okay. Additionally, possibly, just food for thought, could, with that give, could then Harbor Inlet, which is south, do you know where Harbor Inlet is? Okay, great. Could Harbor Inlet stay in District 4 and just Harbor Beach go to District 2? Does that make sense?
I think so. Again, a lot of this, we're following the census blocks. So we would
Yep.
look to see the way that could fall. In this option, we obviously use, the intercoastal as the boundary.
Yep. Exactly, the intercoastal, and then like 17th Street is kind of the east-west boundary there. That makes sense?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay. All right. Unless someone else has some other comments, I would recommend that you work with Mike directly. And there are 3 people who did sign up to speak, so I'm going to give them that opportunity, and let's see what they have to say. So thank you. We appreciate it. We'll start out with Mary Peliquin. Is she still here? Followed by Bill Brown, followed by James Labrie. Oh. Hello, Mary.
Hello, I'm Mary Peliquin. I live at 2510 Northeast 12th Court in Fort Lauderdale, currently in District 1. I'm going to be representing 2 different entities. One is the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Associations, and the other is the Coral Ridge Association. I'm going to read a letter that I sent to all of you previously. The Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Association's Board of Directors is against any civic association being split into 2 different districts. The current 4 options are unacceptable, as many civic associations are in 2 different districts on the options presented. No organization can properly function with 2 different commissioners. No offense. And since commissioners have different views on items like parks, development, and traffic, there was a unanimous vote at this evening, this is March 28th, CFLCA Board of Directors for new district map options that do not split any neighborhood or civic association into 2 different districts. Regards, Mary Peliquin, President, Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Associations. And just to add to that, there are at least a total of 7 civic associations that are divided in these maps. Downtown Fort Lauderdale Civic Association, I believe, is divided in every single one of them. The question comes as to how will sunshine laws work when there are 2 commissioners for a civic association? What if people have, what if commissioners have 2 different views? It's sort of like a mom and dad thing. If I ask mom for something and she says no, can I go to dad? I mean, we're creating sort of a dysfunctional thing here. So in light of that, we really do want to see a different map that doesn't divide civic associations. Sounds like you're going down that path.
Okay.
Then, this is from Coral Ridge Association. The Coral Ridge Association currently resides in Commission District 1. We have reviewed the proposed redistricting maps. We are concerned about the redistricting and the potential with splitting our neighborhood in association with 2 different commission districts. If either option 2 or 4 were chosen, we would be split into 2 different commission districts. Our neighborhood is very active and many members participate on city advisory boards and attend Commissioner Murata's pre-agenda meetings. Going forward, our efforts are better served by remaining in 1 district. Our preference is to remain in the same district as an entire association and neighborhood. I urge you to find a solution that does not split up any association with redistricting. Sincerely, Chris Williams, President of the Coral Ridge Association. So again, it's the same questions. How will sunshine laws work? I mean, how will it, if you have to go to 2 different commissioners? There's also a big concern in that Coral Ridge has been separated from the Galleria in a lot of these maps, which is a huge concern to us. Our road, Bayview Drive, dead ends right into the Galleria. We've been very active with the developers of the Galleria, both the present and the past. And we don't really want to see the Galleria be removed from the Coral Ridge, the same district that Coral Ridge is in. It's a very big concern for us. So that's it. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Bill Brown, followed by James Labrie, followed by Jacqueline Scott.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the commission. Bill Brown, I reside at 112 North Birch Road on the Barrier Island. First, let me just begin by saying I commend Florida Atlantic University for trying to do what they think is within the law, using the census data, leaning forward, looking at the 23 projection numbers that they had received guidance from this commission at their last presentation to do to help soften the blow of the impacts of the census numbers that hopefully this community will see in the year 2030. One of the things that I find interesting is everyone up here today, you were talking sensibly, reasonably amongst yourselves to try to do the right things. There's not going to be one option that's going to please this entire community. It's kind of like what we're going to hear tonight with the BMR. There's going to be winners, there's going to be losers. But doing nothing is not an option, as you said with BMR and with this issue that's presented to you that we're discussing on redistricting. But I feel confident as a member of this community taking the right approach that you're now doing, at least narrowing it down to one option and trying to tweak it and stay within the guidance that the law allows you to do and to prevent gerrymandering. So thank you for that, and hopefully when we come back and be able to all agree upon one option, knowing that not everyone's going to be happy, but then we move forward. And I just have one question. Isn't it reasonable to expect Florida Atlantic University to be able to come back with what you've proposed to them today? I know it's an agenda item tonight. I don't think they'll be able to have that map, but will it be reasonable to have an expectation to bring it back to the next commission after tonight's meeting? Thank you.
Thank you. Jim, followed by Jacqueline Scott, followed by Melinda Boker.
Mayor Trentalis, Vice Mayor Moritas, Commissioners Glassman, McKenzie, and Sorensen. My name is James Labrie. I'm a resident of Fort Lauderdale. My home is in the Poinsettia Heights neighborhood of District 2, where I've lived for over 19 years. I'm a board member of the Poinsettia Heights Civic Association, and I'm a member of the Infrastructure Task Force Advisory Committee. However, I'm speaking this afternoon as a private citizen and not as a representative of any organization or committee. On March 17th of this year, I attended a presentation here at City Hall regarding the redistricting process and the three options that were available at that time. At that meeting, the FAU team was asked specifically to not divide neighborhood civic associations in their mapping process. Yet today we see four options doing exactly what they were not asked to do. Clear example is Middle River Terrace and South Middle River are divided in options 1, 2, and 4. In the list of FAU's criteria used for this process, it states the integrity of communities of interest should be maintained based on race, life cycle, age, income, and other community identity characteristics such as subdivisions. I'm asking you, doesn't a neighborhood civic association create a community of interest? Let me be clear. It does not make sense to divide a neighborhood association. What I'm asking is that the retaining of the boundaries of the civic associations should be a required criterion for redrawing the city commission districts. I ask this commission to reject these options and FAU to go back to the drawing board. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Jacqueline Scott, followed by Melinda Boker, followed by Troy Liggett.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. FAU, who's worked very hard at this whole project, I know. I'm here representing the Coley Hammock HOA today, and I have been here and involved with redistricting, et cetera, since districts were created in 1987. And I just want to take you down memory lane. When we first went to districting, Coley Hammock was in District 2. The commissioner was Sheila Harrigan, and I believe her second term, she lost the election to Carrie Keno. Carrie Keno came in for, I think, 3 years. And then when it came, we then, I think, the next census came up. And so redistricting occurred. He made sure that Coley Hammock was not in District 2 because it was almost impossible to represent the people in District 2 and also represent the people in Coley Hammock because the interests are so different. So since that time, Coley Hammock has been in District 4, represented by Jack Latona, Cindy Hutchinson, Romney Rogers, and now Commissioner Sorensen. You all know that we all participated in the Las Olas Mobility. and you saw the differences and the opinions of the east side of Las Olas versus the Merchants versus Coley Hammock. It's just so important for Coley Hammock to remain in District 4. We don't want to choose a map. We don't want to get involved in that aspect of it. We just want to be able to have our commissioner representing us from District 4. Nothing against Steve Glassman in District 2 whatsoever. It's just you've got, I think I made my point. It's just two different groups of people with entirely different goals and ideas. And because we're a small neighborhood, it's just critical that we have our own representation. And I appreciate, hopefully, that may happen. The boundaries, I think that part of this process is the population puzzle. Part of this process is minimizing degree of change. And please don't do any harm. I like what you said, Mayor, about trying to create something that has the most minimal effect on all the neighborhoods. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Melinda?
Hello, it's Melinda Balker. I live currently in District 4, New River Landing, south side of the river. I am the president of the Downtown Fort Lauderdale Civic Association. So I've been working with Ben for a couple of years in my presidency. I'm also treasurer and also represent here the Council of Fort Lauderdale Civic Association. So I completely endorse and agree with Mary Peliquin's remarks earlier. We did have a unanimous vote at the council to not split up any neighborhoods. So on behalf of my own neighborhood, I would just ask the commission and FAU, thank you for the work you've done on this, but can we please have an option to consider that does not split the downtown neighborhood in half at the river? So just as a refresher, I know that there's a lot of new buildings, but our neighborhood goes from our northern boundary at Broward all the way down to Davie, and then our eastern boundary is US 1. Our western boundary is the FEC rail tracks on the north side of the river and Andrews Ave on the south side. And I would just ask that there be an option where we are kept within one district. I see a lot of issues with smart growth and consistency of our downtown vision if we are represented just by virtue of the river by two different elected officials. I do think it could be problematic. I think that the south side of the river is just as much downtown as the north side. This discussion has come up before in our neighborhood. We're not breaking up. We are going to remain a neighborhood on both sides of the river. And I do want to also bring to your attention that the zoning is also consistent. I don't know if that was anything that you looked into, but we are the only section in the city that's RACCC. So Recreational Activity Center, City Center goes from Broward all the way down to 9th Street. And I do think there's consistencies also with as far as downtown Riverwalk. Would one commissioner represent the north side of Riverwalk and another commissioner represent the south side of Riverwalk downtown? I just don't think it makes sense. We've got a lot of great synergies going. I really would appreciate if you would create a map that keeps downtown in one district. And I would like to state that I don't think that the current 4 maps are acceptable. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Troy Liggett. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Okay, Troy, wrap it up.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, I'm Troy Liggett. I'm the new president of the Middle River Terrace Neighborhood Association. I know I've communicated with all of you by email, and I appreciate everything you're saying here today. I think it's really smart to have as few changes as possible, to send the consultants back to not split any neighborhoods. I'll throw one more suggestion that I was thinking just while I'm watching this debate that you might consider also advising the consultants. It will be really hard not to split neighborhoods by sticking to a variation like in maps 1, 2, and 3, where the population only varies by 1 or 2%. It'll be really hard for them to do that. The fourth option varies by about 4%, but I think I heard today that in your direction to them, it could vary by as much as 10%. And 10% would be only about 4,800 people. might be smart to give the consultant the suggestion to look toward that 10% variation, and then possibly suggest that for now, the larger districts, as a third priority, be the third and the fourth, because I know all the development is happening right now, at least in 2 and 4. And so encourage them to look toward that 10% variation mark, and possibly make the smaller districts, when they have to make changes, be 2 and 4. Because I know just when they build the Sears Tower, the Sears Town project, that itself is going to skew this map. And I suggest it makes would be a smart decision to have the smaller districts, at least for now, be 2 and 4 as you're looking toward the future. So thank you for everything you're doing.
All right, well, thank you.
Mayor, if I just could comment, I wanted to also make sure that FAU saw Troy did some really excellent work on some map prospects. So Troy, have you seen Troy's maps as well? Because I want to make sure you take a look at some of the work that he's done. And that's a great point about the 10%, as well as not just the Searstown for District 2, but for instance, we might have the possibility of thousands more in District 1 at the Galleria Mall, if that project moves along and sees approval. So I think those are good points that we might want to be a little flexible with.
Mike Stam for the record. Commissioner, I believe I saw the map that was supplied. It was in the public record submission that we received. We ran the numbers. Based on the 2020 numbers, the option didn't work.
I think he's given a subsequent map. I think you're talking about his first map. Yeah, he's done a second map, because I did already have that conversation with him about the first map.
I haven't seen that one obviously
Okay.
yet, but we ran the first one,
Yeah,
and
don't forget the first one.
it was off. Yeah. So, but again, we've taken in the public comment, and I think we have a little bit of direction here.
Okay, I think he sent you the second one this morning.
Understood.
Thank you.
Okay, any further comments? Or
Yeah,
we'll move on.
Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, Mayor, thanks. Like, so I'm just listening to Melinda's feedback. So to not split the downtown Fort Lauderdale Civic Association is difficult. None of your maps provide for that. So if it was critical to not split a civic association, including the Downtown Civic Association, what you'd have to do, you'd have to go, so it'd have to stay, I think it'd have to go to District 2, okay? Are you picturing the map, or do you want to?
Oh, no, I've got it.
You got it in your head, okay. So you'd have to basically go to it'd have to go to District 2, and the entirety of the Civic Association would have to go to District 2, right?
That's one of the more challenging neighborhoods to not split because of its geography.
Exactly. It's very difficult, but the only way you could do it is have it go to District 2, I think, and then just bear with me. So then to offset that, you could, again, just playing with those numbers, maybe move Sailboat Bend to District 4, and then on the east side of downtown, Beverly Heights, go with that federal highway boundary, Beverly Heights and Cooley Hammock go to District 4. You know what I'm saying?
I understand.
And then you possibly maybe get the numbers there. Maybe you still need more numbers because of the density of the Downtown Civic Association, and that's where maybe you bring Harbor Beach, Harbor Inlet from District 2, where it would be, into District 4.
Yeah, that area, if I could, Commissioner,
Yeah.
is extremely dense around the tracks there, and south of Broward.
Right.
That provides a lot of challenges in this process.
Right. Do you know what that population is of the downtown?
I don't have it off the top of my head. I
Yeah.
apologize. We
Yeah.
kind of grouped that area together, but
So anyway, that's just food for thought. I think that's the only way you can get downtown staying intact.
it becomes almost like a sawtooth in a sense.
It becomes a sawtooth. It juts down,
And then
but
goes
it
back up
and then
and
goes back up.
Yep.
But you keep it intact, and then the rest of the district, the rest of that 4, has some good continuity and so forth of what it still is.
Understood.
So okay, thanks.
Appreciate the
Thanks,
comments.
Mayor.
Commissioner, what were you talking about? The numbers for what? Because the listing of the entire downtown Fort Lauderdale Civic Association has it at 5860.
58,000.
5,800.
5,800 in the entire of the Downtown Civic Association.
That's what the figures say.
Commissioner, if I may, I don't know that those numbers reflect the projections.
Okay.
Because there's
Yeah,
a
I
lot
think
of that
it's
development
more.
occurred in that area. That was one of the challenges throughout this process.
Okay. So I think you got good.
A lot of
food
your
for
newer
thought.
developments in
Right, that's the 2020 census figures.
Correct.
5860 for downtown.
Okay. So if that's the case and projected in your math, and that makes that possible, the Sailboat Bend or Harbor Beach or Harbor, play with that.
Yeah,
Anyway.
understood.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay.
Mayor,
Oh,
if I
sorry.
just, if I, just some, for some final comments, because we've been hearing about the splitting of the area. So, Mike, it's Mike, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there is a possibility maybe we could take a look at it when we're looking at that map one. I think District 3 could actually take more from District 4. If District 4 takes along East Las Olas.
So the suggestion is making District 3 a little bit on the higher end?
District 2 might take back Progresso Village, which you've put into District 3 now. Because if we move Progresso into District 2, back into District 2, that would be contiguous with Sailboat Bend, which could then move back into District 2 from District 4, where you have that. You could still give all of East Las Olas back to District 4, which you now have in District 2. Again, keeping Sailboat Bend and Progresso in District 4. And I think you could have District 3 would get Sunset Civic back, which is just north of Lauderdale Isles. That's just something to take a look at.
And Commissioner, I'm going to wrap up with this thought process. The goal that and the direction that we're trying to get is that try to minimize degree of change, try to keep the neighborhoods together if there is an option. And then the last item is that obviously we have to stay within our population equity. We try to give you the lowest numbers possible so that you had plenty of room. We'll take a look at the numbers and we'll see what we can bring back.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank
Thank you.
What are we voting on tonight?
Thank you.
Then?
Well, the thing is, I was just looking at the agenda. Maybe we should defer PH2 to our next meeting because there's really nothing to vote on.
Yeah. Or do you need us to vote on something, Chris?
Yeah.
Forward to vote on the second hearing.
Yeah, if you're not going to vote for a map tonight, then we probably would have to have a special meeting in order to give FAU sufficient time to generate whatever it is with the input so that you can approve a map so that we can have a second reading on the 19th.
What's the reason for that, Alan? With the state moving down, they're not coming back till the 19th to look at congressional maps.
Right.
And so our supervisor of elections is not going to have any of that information for a while. What is our hurry?
Because we have, well, obviously because of the November election that was called, so the rush is all because of November.
The congressional primary is going to be in August. That's even
Understood.
before November.
Understood, but they need to say, we have the most number of precincts in Broward County. So they need to readjust and do everything with regards to precincts. So they need as much time as possible to do that. Smaller cities obviously had more leeway because they have 1 or 2 precincts, but we have a lot of precincts. So
Let's just see what they come up with, and then.
So we could actually pass something on a first reading and then totally tweak it on a second reading?
Well,
how would that help? Except move up our own timeline.
You can. I mean, yeah, you could. Well, there's 2 options. You could approve a tentative map tonight. Let's say you like option 1, but you'd be essentially approving that map.
Yeah.
And then with direction to amend it, come back at the second reading with the amendments, presuming that those would work. But then you'd leave yourself very little time at that point. Preferably, you'd either defer tonight to a special meeting that we could agree upon maybe in a week or so, and then have them come back because they don't want to obviously do this on the fly. They need to do some analysis. Come back with a map that tries to incorporate everything you've suggested today. And if that's something that's close enough and acceptable, you vote on that at that special meeting, and then we can come back on the 19th and finalize it.
Have we gotten specific direction from the supervisor of elections on this timeline?
I don't know exactly the conversation. I know that the consultants have. I think they wanted this back in December, but I believe that's the direction we've received from but I haven't spoken to them personally.
Correct. I haven't either, but I
think the consultants come
up in. We've heard the middle of the month is their desired.
Mike Stam, Florida Atlantic University. So we've had conversations with the supervisor, obviously working with other clients. Most cities delivered by the middle of March. March was the initial deadline that they gave most cities to get them in, obviously based on the congressional item. The challenge that's come up is that the 3, I'm going to call them latest cities to the party, Pines, Hollywood, and Fort Lauderdale now, which also have the most amount of precincts, which is the most amount of work going into this effort. So what we have heard consistently from the supervisor is that they really wanted all the maps as a drop dead by March. They're giving some, obviously there's a little bit more leeway there, but there's not a lot of leeway in terms of how long it's taken them. Again, I'm paraphrasing what I heard. Again, I'm not going verbatim, but we've heard the same consistent message when we've heard it from other cities. And we've worked on a bunch of cities in Broward County on this issue.
Thank you.
So, to respond to what Mr. Boileau is asking, can we, will you have enough time to come up with another map if we were to meet between now and our next scheduled meeting in 2 weeks? Or do we want the next scheduled meeting in 2 weeks to be the first meeting, and then we could schedule a special meeting subsequently to be the second reading?
No, I think Alan wants to finish it all by April 19th.
I know what Alan wants.
He wants to finish it by the 19th.
I know what Alan wants, but I want to give these, first of all, I want to give Mike a chance to rework the maps and be able to meet with people who want to meet with them.
Right.
So doing it in a week's time, it may be a little tight.
2 weeks.
Mayor, we're a pretty adept group, and we'll work really diligently. My worry all the time is that I understand municipalities have advertising deadlines and stuff like that. I don't want to answer, I can't answer right now unless I understand it completely what advertising deadlines would be required of us. If you give us our drop deadlines, there's a lot of accommodation that has to be made in the period of 7 days.
Yeah, I agree.
I can answer that, because if we defer it tonight to a date certain meeting, even if it's a special call, we will keep our advertising in place. So that's not at risk as long as we do it the correct way tonight.
Understood. I think look, as we go through this process, you know, we could have created 100 scenarios trying to figure this puzzle out, right? We can go back and look at some of those older puzzle pieces, and again, with the goal of minimizing change and trying to keep neighborhoods together. I do my best not to make a promise, because I don't know that that's something that's actually doable. But we will make our best attempts, and I'll confer with our team. If it's okay with you, City Manager, I can get back to you shortly on that, okay?
Yeah, just before tonight would be preferable, so I can get a sense from the commission if, let's just say hypothetically, we were to call a special meeting a week from today. You know, I just need to know that I would have the ability to get the commission together. So that would be on an off Tuesday, but I don't know if you would be available or not. Does that
Yeah, on
jump out
April
as-
12th, you're saying, would we be
Correct.
available for a special?
I think it's better as long as we can meet these deadlines. I think it's better to have the special called before the 19th as opposed to the 19th.
I agree.
First.
I'm good with the 12th.
I'm good.
What,
Well,
the
I'll
12th?
make myself available.
Robert?
Commissioner McKenzie?
I don't do my calendar.
I can check during the break.
Yeah, check for me.
Okay.
We're talking about the 12th?
Tuesday, April 12th for a special meeting.
Any particular time?
Well, you'll be taking action, so I guess it's special calls, so we could go early. We don't have to go after 6. We can do whatever time is your pleasure.
Can we do it at 1 o'clock?
I can't.
Are we voting, though? If we're voting, does it
You will
need to
be, but it's
You will be
special
voting.
called. You can vote before 6.
Special meeting, you can vote.
I'm good anytime that day.
Good anytime.
Why can't you
After
do it?
1:30? I'm just kidding.
I can't. I'll be visiting some neighborhoods in District 1 at that day. I'm sorry, I won't be able to. I'm looking at my calendar right now. I'm sorry.
You're
Yes, thank you. I'm
shopping?
sorry. I'm looking for apartments in District 1.
We can switch homes.
I'll have to get back to you,
love to.
Chris. Okay.
Say
Live in
1
the
o'clock.
Sapphire overlooking.
Yeah, you should do a spouse swap. The
Yeah.
two.
I'll
Sweet.
That
I'll have
would
to
be-
get back. I'll have to get back
You
to
can take
you.
the dog, too.
Yeah, good. I like that idea.
We can always,
We'll say April 12th.
we can always give you the Shippy House back.
TV show.
Right,
We'll give
exactly.
him the Shippy House.
Right,
Oh,
now we're talking.
God.
All right, all right, all right, all right. Okay, let's move on.
City Clerk, are you in touch with Joe Scott and just, this process and so forth?
I have not with regards to this. I believe Lillian was in contact with the SOE regarding redistricting.
Okay, so I think that'd be good, probably just as you're building relationships and keeping updated, just, that just regular touch base, just as because you're the boss of all this, how it actually plays out. Cool, thanks, Mayor.
Okay, no further comments from the public. We'll move on to our city commission reports. Vice Mayor?
Yes. Okay, good to see you all. I'm looking forward to hearing your report about your trip, Mayor, and I'll keep mine brief. I did submit my resignation effective November. I may have made a.
What?
Yes, I did. I was waiting for your flight to land before I did it. I think I may have made a mistake about my date, so I can give you a new letter.
Yeah, as we
April.
discussed, I'm checking on that, and I'll provide you the appropriate date.
Okay, so I may have been off by a day. I just need to make sure the next person can actually run on November 8th. And I did say November 9th, so I may.
You mean serve on November?
Yes, I have to make sure, I guess, I am done before that election so that the next person can qualify. And so thank you for that. I don't have any other comments today. Thank you.
What do you mean by qualify?
Well, they would qualify in June, but if I don't resign until November 9th, then they can't run on November 8th. So some people thought I was maybe being smart about that.
Yeah.
I said, I'm actually not that complicated. I just probably made a mistake. Yeah.
So that brings a question of mine. You're saying your resignation a day earlier will have someone qualify this June.
That's what I'm
coming.
That's what I'm thinking.
June 2022. That's not how I read the charter. So I think we got to get back to this charter review thing because it's reading, and Alan's going to say one thing, I'm going to say another, but there's two pieces that doesn't make sense. I think everything was based on when we were on 3-year terms and not the 4-year terms, which pushes those dates to 2024, not what we're interpreting in terms of time remaining for a special election or appointment. I think we need some serious clarification on what's going on because we opted for 4 years, but we didn't change our charter to reflect how that would impact us if one of us left here, in particular a mayor. So I think it needs to be we need to do something to get the right clarification. I'm not discounting anyone on our staff saying that they can and cannot do this, but it needs to be clear because you have one interpretation. I have another, and I'm sure.
But what are you reading? What are you thinking? Because this is important because I think that going forward, we might have to figure out, because there might be more than one special election.
Because you shouted out to me jokingly that, if I leave now, I would save money. You said that, we talk about appointments. Yeah. But I don't think that stuff comes into play if I'm reading and understanding correctly. I don't want to be the opiner or the interpreter of the charter, but I think it is reading based on the 3-year terms.
What does it say?
That's not.
We specifically looked at that when we did the amendment, and we kept the 18 months in there. So that's not an omission or an oversight. So it's within 18 months. So even though we extended the terms to 4 years, the 18 months still remains the factor of if there's less than 18 months left before the end of the term, an appointment is made.
More than 18
It's more than 18, then it's a special election, which, again, November in qualifying is not even set yet because you all are going to have to call for a special election.
That's my point.
So you haven't done that yet. So presuming you do that, let's say next meeting, you will dictate, hopefully with the cooperation of the supervisor of election, when that election would take place, and then you would also determine when qualifying is and so on and so forth. That's dictated actually by Florida law, that aspect of it.
That's my point.
Right.
Right. No, I understand, but it would still behoove us, correct me if I'm wrong, to try and at least have all of the special elections on that midterm election day and save ourselves maybe hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of not having our own special elections, correct?
It's going to save you money, and then you have an interesting dynamic depending on how many special elections you have to have. Because if for some reason we have to have more than 2, then you're going to end up in November. If you don't have an election in November, you're going to end up with a commission without a quorum, which means we have to go to an interim government aspect of our charter.
All right. Let's not go.
Well, no, that's why we have to figure this out.
But the point is that now that we know that the vice mayor has submitted her resignation, and knowing that she intends to complete her term on election day, we now can call for a special election.
Correct, and that would be my recommendation, again, for us to coincide with November.
Right.
To do that probably the next meeting. Again, we're gonna have to contact the supervisor of election because it's by resolution, we have to have the time, place, all so on and so forth. Luckily, we don't have primary anymore, so we can skip that whole process.
So if we have a special election and we notify the supervisor of elections of our intention to have a special election, we know that there's at least one person's name or one office name that will be assigned to that special election, and we can add to it should other resignations occur.
No, you're gonna have to call another election. So if another seat opens up, you'll have to call an election for that seat as well. Now, again, the goal is gonna be to coincide the election and hopefully have sufficient time for the supervisor of election to add the name to that ballot. But you're gonna have to call an election for that particular seat
Okay,
because
that's
it's gonna be a
fine.
different qualification.
So the qualifying period is in June, right?
Well, that depends. That depends on when the election is.
If it's
For
November.
example, the only seat I've looked at was because the county had set its election. So I had looked at the county, and the way it's calculated under state law, it's 10 days before qualifying. So I think June 3rd is the day for someone to resign. That's just my
That is not
calculation.
correct.
Is that correct?
No, that is not correct. Because you have a primary, then you have a November general election. So
But
we don't
have a
have,
primary.
let me just.
We don't have a primary.
Primary
have
for
a
the
primary
county.
with the
We don't-
county.
The city doesn't have a primary.
Yeah, but he's talking about my race now.
But we had checked with the supervisor of election. That's the information we had gotten. That's
Yeah,
all.
but.
Just because
okay.
it's 10 days before qualifying. That's all by state law. That's the only reason we're operating that way.
You talk state law, now you're talking what I'm talking about, but we need to have an opinion from the state. We do not need to try to interpret what this is based on what another commissioner has done to try to have two races and save money. Because I don't have to resign until I take office, which is in any
Well, we're gonna need an
election
opinion on that,
process.
because that's not my understanding. My understanding is that when you.
And that's my point right there.
When you qualify, when you file qualifying papers, that's, there, you have to resign to run.
No, that's if you're running for a federal office, you have to resign to run. Local offices, you do not have to resign to run. You resign time specific based on your time frame of running. So that last congressional race, those folks had to resign to run. That's state law, state and federal law. So
All right,
all I'm saying is, let's get the opinion.
We'll get an opinion about
Let's get the facts.
Yeah.
And it should really be coming from the charter review. But here again, it's our third time.
No, we should get it from the Attorney General's office.
We could, well, we can initially, I mean, you can direct any way you want, but there's
think we should get an
plenty of
opinion
law
from-
out there, because I don't know that the Attorney General would take the question. And we've done this, we did it with Charlotte Rostrom, I believe we did it with you as well, and with Bobby DuBose, also with the resign
When
to run law.
Charlotte ran for county commission, she had to quit. So
You
you're
have
saying
to
it's just
quit.
for federal?
We have to look at the law.
Yeah, we did. And she had to quit to
Had to
run.
resign to run.
Charlotte's not here. Robert's here and the vice mayor's here. We have to look at the current law
Right.
as to how it is interpreted and what is to be done.
Right.
Right.
And she had to quit.
She did it based on what she wanted to do because she was running for
County.
county seat. She anticipated winning and she lost.
But she had to quit to run.
No, she did not.
Well,
Okay.
Well,
Everybody else thought she did. I don't know why.
well,
You don't quit
Alan,
to run.
Alan,
You quit when you win
Alan,
or lose.
do you, for someone to run for city commission and then run for county commission, do they have to resign to run for county commission, from the city commission?
No.
Well, let Alan answer it.
Under section 99.1010, I'm sorry, .012, the resign to run law, yes, it would be 10 days prior to the qualification period. Now, the resignation, as Commissioner Moritas has done, that's when the resignation is. It's not necessarily effective
Correct.
until
Now we're talking the same language.
I understand.
Okay, so that you have to resign, but the resignation is not effective immediately, just as the commissioner,
Right,
the vice
but-
mayor has done.
right, the vice
It's
mayor has set a
effective at the
date.
Right.
She's
But
set
the
a date.
submission, though, of that resignation has to occur 10 days prior to qualification.
I understand. I'm just saying that it's.
Let me read the law.
It's up to
read
Commissioner.
it.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Written resignation must be submitted at least 10 days prior to the first day of qualifying for the office of he or she intends to seek. The resignation must be effective no later than the earlier of the following dates, the date the officer would take office if elected.
Right.
So if the county swearing in is in January, that's when he or she leaves here.
That's a choice. What's the
But
other
she's
one?
not running for office, hers
Right.
is different.
Right.
You can't simultaneously do the two together. We're not saying the same thing.
No, we are. We're in complete agreement. I completely agree with what you just
I
said.
think how you said it the first time was I got to resign. No, the resignation letter
Right.
must be submitted date specific to the election swearing in if you are to win.
You said the earlier of, but then you
But
just
he
read
clarified
one.
it later on, but when he first spoke, he said I have to resign in June. That is not correct.
January, it's January.
It's January.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Resignation letter must be submitted 10 days.
You have to resign.
No, your resignation letter.
What's a resignation letter? No,
It's
what's
an
a
intent to resign.
The intent to
Intent.
resign,
Yep,
date specific.
Right.
yes,
Of
in January
The day that you
2023.
receive, you take office.
I
This is state law.
I am just saying it's obviously each individual's choice, but I'm just saying it would be great if we could have all of these special elections at the November midterm election, everyone resigning in time for that, qualifying in time for that, so that we would be saving hundreds of thousands of dollars on all of these special elections if we wrap them all into the midterm election. That's all I'm saying, but it's everyone's choice, that's all.
Right. I'm just talking about the law.
I understand.
Okay.
Alan, question on that. With Vice Mayor resigning effective November 8th or whatever, 2022, when does that person who's elected on that date take office? That date?
No, same as we always do. You have to have a swearing in.
So
the effective,
December?
it's just like when you were elected.
Yep, I'm just
Technically, if
asking.
it had been somebody different, you'd replace somebody. You actually take office when you are sworn in.
December.
Whatever date we choose for that.
December,
We moved it up to December.
right, Alan?
December last.
Was that a one-time
That's what
thing
I'm
in
saying.
December, or was it,
I just want to be clear.
oh, so maybe I should change it to December? I don't want to leave my district
No.
without a okay.
Well,
I don't want to leave them without a
But that's the thing.
representation.
See, that's why I bring it up, because now District 1 is going to be without a
We
representative.
set that date in December. We made
Hold
it.
on, hold on.
We set that date.
I know we
just said
did.
it earlier.
So maybe
I
I
know,
should,
I'm just saying.
I hear what you're saying, Ben.
As it is right now, District 1 would be without a representative from November 8th to December, whatever it is.
Simply
But-
because we didn't understand
Well, they have
rules of
Commissioner West.
engagement.
I can
We
change.
could set it.
But-
We could set it earlier, but guess what? At one time, when Commissioner Rodstrom, we had over 4 months when District 2 had no person on this commission. More than
Based on
4 months.
Based on how she did it,
Right.
it left.
I'm
the
just saying.
district,
Right.
Right.
So,
Well, I don't
but-
want to
but-
leave, I don't want to leave them
That's what
hanging.
she's embarking on right
but
now.
Commissioner Sorensen, to the point that
Yeah.
was raised earlier,
Good point.
if you do that, yeah, but then the person, you don't have a vacant seat for somebody to run for.
Right.
Oh, because I have to
So-
resign the day before the election so that they can run in the election.
If you can't have two commissioners,
yeah, I'm just
Can't we
telling
just
you.
move up the swearing-in date earlier?
I'm just
Can we
telling
do
you.
that?
well, it's set by we had issues with that last time because that was set in the charter. So we had to find a way to amend that.
We
But
found a way to move it earlier to December from January.
we did by ordinance, but it wasn't a one-time deal. You'd have to, you can always.
We have time to
through the
figure it
process
out.
We have, yeah.
Like county commissioners, I think, are sworn in the third Tuesday of November.
January.
Okay. I'm here in November, but whatever the
We'll
case
deal
may
with
be.
that when the time
So,
comes. Okay.
but hold on, let me just finish my thought.
But we're in commission reports right now, and we don't know the answer to that question right now. And we'll be, you'll be able to get whatever information you want from the city attorney. I want to move the meeting along because I know we got a lot of things to talk about.
So it's your meeting to move along. Move it along.
Okay, I'll just talk about it at commission
I want to
reports.
do the CRA meeting before tonight.
No, I'm saying move it.
I'm trying
I'm
to,
with
but
you.
you all seem to be garrulous.
This matters, Mayor.
Together
This
here.
matters.
There are questions that can be answered, but he doesn't have the answer to you for you right now. He's just indicated he'll have to get back with you.
We're not even sure when, who, and where.
Let's figure it out so that we can have no gap in
Worthwhile
representation.
finishing this conversation. I'll finish it at commission reports. That's
Go
fine.
ahead.
Thanks.
Maybe, okay. Resign, but-
Commissioner McKenzie, do you have any commission reports?
I have no reports, and when I decide that I'm going to resign, I'll let this commission know the rules of engagement as it pertains to what I'm doing.
Okay, thank you.
Beautiful.
Commissioner Glassman, do you have any commission reports?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Working on with staff, we'll be soon having a update for the solid waste working group, which has been making a lot of progress.
What's going on with this lawsuit between
the Bergeron and
Son Bergeron and?
Yeah. Well, I can't talk about legal matters. Okay.
Good answer, Steve.
Thank you very much. I really had a pleasure taking tour in Lake Ridge of the Linneo project. Those guys did a great job there. Enjoyed touring the new townhomes. Also attended the Pulse on Downtown Fort Lauderdale Market Report Series. Always very, very educational. Mayor, you were there with me at the Glavovic Studio 20-year celebration ribbon cutting in Flagler Village. Beautiful property, 50-year plus property, renovated, looks beautiful. Enjoyed. I finally went on tour of the new Four Seasons Hotel on the beach.
Without me?
Beautiful.
Without me?
Without you, yes. It was a really what I particularly like, and I would recommend everyone get there.
Without us?
A beautiful park on A1A. Really, the building starts really recessed west of A1A, so that there's an elevated park space. It's really lovely. It's really nice. The property itself is also very stunning, but I particularly enjoyed that green area right off of A1A towards the lobby heading west on that property. Really nice. I wanted to thank staff for the historic preservation planning sessions for a more resilient Fort Lauderdale. Also, Be Tactical workshops, and also all of that happening in Lake Ridge on 15th. That's been moving along very quickly. Attended the Victoria Park Civic Association meeting, also one's coming up. We're going to be doing the Made to Move Painted Intersection public event on Thursday in Mass District. Also, the International Swimming Hall of Fame is having a board meeting. I'll be addressing, as I know all the rest of us will, the Neighborhood Leadership Academy. I'll be there on Wednesday, the 13th. And that's about it. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner Sorensen.
Thank you, Mayor. So just to wrap that up, Alan. So the moving up, the swearing in is possible without a change in the charter.
Well, it is a change in the charter, but I'll have to go look back to see what we did. It's
Okay.
not necessarily something I take to the voters because it's more or less of a substantive issue, but
Right.
I'll go back and see what the process was.
Yeah. Okay. Because I think not only just for this circumstance, but I think in general we might have some good ideas how to make that more seamless, so there's less of a lag of time or whatever. Okay.
And the same thing occurs, and I think this was the argument last time, that let's say somebody runs that's an incumbent and loses, they remain in office until swearing in, but they're sort of a lame duck.
Exactly.
Right? So,
I think yeah.
right, so the longer that
Shorter
period
is better in terms of duration there. Okay. So you'll get us feedback on that. Great. Thank you. Next topic is Chris. Let's see, 5 Ash. Give us a little update where we are on 5 Ash P3.
If you all approve the special counsel tonight at the evening meeting that the city attorney has proposed, that kickoff meeting will happen tomorrow. And we will have our first couple of days of working group with the vendor that you all have directed us to work with next Tuesday and Wednesday.
Okay, great, thanks. Joint Government Campus, what's the latest there?
I don't have an update on that.
I just got a phone. I just got a text.
I just got a text from
I just
Monica
got a
that asked
text.
me.
Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
So something happened at the county meeting today that I need to.
Oh, about government campus?
I don't know what it's
What'd
about.
you hear, Mayor?
But, I just got a text from Monica that asked if I had a couple minutes to talk, and I presume that there was.
And I got a
probably some
text message
discussion.
from the Sun Sentinel saying, how do you want to respond to the comments recently made by the county regarding the Joint Government Center?
What'd they say?
I don't know. I
don't know
haven't-
yet.
I've been in a meeting.
I can't,
If I had a break, maybe I could call them back.
Commissioner Sorensen, I can't
Yes.
give you one
Testy
update.
today, Mayor. You're
I know he is, he's sensitive.
I can't give you one update on the legal
Yes.
side. The firm we hired, Buchanan Ingersoll, prepared, there was an initial meeting with them to discuss the RFP. and they have comments now to provide back to us. They're holding that work product until we resolve an issue. I think I may have brought it to your attention, but there was some comment made at the last meeting that we were at that I need to speak with the head partners of Buchanan Ingersoll. I just want to make sure the city is actually being represented equitably with the county.
What was that about? Which
But Joint Governmental Center.
Joint Government Center?
Yeah. So once that's cleared up, I think I have a call scheduled for Thursday. They're ready to propose the RFP to both the city and the county. That's probably going to be an all-day meeting to go over their commentary on the RFP. And then from then on, we'll decide, I guess, if it's ready to go out or not.
Okay. Do we have a joint meeting scheduled right now? No.
I don't believe so, but you'd have to approve the RFP. So at some point, once we get that done, the meeting will be necessary.
Got it. Okay, great. So more to be determined. Okay.
I know the mayor asked Mayor Udine to facilitate a meeting. I've contacted Monica since we've been back, so that's in progress too, but I don't have a date certain yet.
Okay, great. Thanks. Chris, USS Fort Lauderdale, and we've talked about providing support financially. What's the latest there? What are we?
Yeah, so I know that's one of the topics. I have a meeting tomorrow with our budget office, so let me bring back an answer to you after I have that.
But they want a lot of money.
They do, and I,
Like
you know,
$100,000 or something?
I do believe that we should participate. We just need to
Right.
find that balance.
Right, what that balance is. Okay, so you'll let us know that. Maybe Mayor, most probably when we think of New River Tunnel, what's the latest, or what are we hearing, or tunnel versus bridge, or that possibility, or Chris, or I don't know.
I haven't heard anything since we got back.
I have not either. I have not heard anything since the discussion on potentially doing pre-development on two different concepts.
Right.
Doing a tunnel and a bridge pre-development to make sure that we make the right decision on the front end.
Yeah.
But I have not heard, since we've been back, I have
But
done
I'm
nothing
meeting
but prepare for this meeting.
Meeting, I think next week with another tunnel contractor.
Okay.
Who claims they can come in at under $1 billion.
Okay.
So
Good.
we're really being able to sharpen the pencil and make this more of a
Okay.
reality. So I continue to maintain my contacts with the U.S. Department of Transportation. They're just waiting for us to make a decision.
Okay.
Keeping in mind that the federal government will not get involved if the local community cannot agree. So when the local community means us and the county. So
Right.
the county knows what our position is now.
Right.
So if anything's going to happen, they kind of have to agree with us.
Right.
But we're giving them so many opportunities to do the right thing, simply because we've been working so hard to drop that number from almost $4 billion down to $1 billion. So, I really feel that we can work together with the county and make this happen.
Yep.
So
Good. No, so do I.
as soon as there's
Love
another something substantive to talk about, we'll bring it back to the commission.
Okay. That sounds great. I love it. I'm all in, Mayor. When I've talked to several elected county commissioners, what they're telling me is they would love for the city of Fort Lauderdale to be able to say, hey, here's kind of cost estimates, and here's where we think funding could come from. And I said that's fair, and so
But funding
federal
is-
government,
but
so forth.
But you see, that's a very disingenuous comment on their part, simply because no government agency is going to commit to funding unless they see a project. So
Sure.
they have to see a project before they say, okay, well, we'll participate. So for especially our own county commissioner, who asked me that same question, and I said, no one is going to agree to spend money if they don't know what they're spending the money on. So we have, like the city manager said, we have to come up with some kind of at least initial program that would identify the costs of the tunnel project, and then we can go shop it around. We can't do it yet.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that, but
When people say that to us,
Yeah.
it's very disingenuous. And Senator Geller has also told me the same thing. And I said, he said, what's the city's participation going to be?
Sure.
And I said, well, the city's participation is, it was first priced out at $3.8 billion. We got it down to $1.8 billion. So there's our $2 billion. What are you going to do?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
It's our
I'm being
contribution.
facetious, but I mean, clearly, we're doing a lot to try to make this a reality, and we can't just keep, they've got to be our partners in this. So I
Well,
spoke
yeah,
with
I think they are. I mean, I think they are.
Well, I
think they
spoke
will
with
be.
Mayor Udine on this last week.
Yeah.
And, you know, he agrees. He said, we're going to try to see how we can partner on
Yeah,
this. So.
good. So, I mean, I think, right, so defining more of the project and then talking about possible funding. I mean, I think the more we can do that with the county, the better. Okay, that's great. Let's see. Chris, where are we with Broadview and possibility of affordable housing out there? And
So we brought that forward to the commission, who approved us to transfer that to the housing authority. There's multiple years of diligence and permitting
you have to go through
that the housing authority has to go through. So from the action you all took, I really don't expect that you will see much happen. It's in progress, but you won't see much happen for a couple of years before we start to see any movement forward.
Okay.
It's a good project.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. I just want to make sure we're.
There's nothing to
our
do at this
support
point.
can't-
Correct.
Nothing else we
We've
can
already
do to
taken the action.
keep moving it forward. Okay, great. Thank you. Let me see. Give us an update on the tunnel to the beach possibility. What's the latest there?
So the city attorney swapped back comments with the boring company in the form of an interim agreement. Earlier, I guess late towards the end of last week, we're scheduled to meet with the boring company and understand their feedback based upon our red lines to the interim agreement next, I think it's next Tuesday in the evening or next Monday in the evening. So documents have exchanged both directions, and now we just need to agree on what is the right interim agreement. It will then come to the commission for your approval. And that will allow the continued work to be done to identify the path, as well as doing the geotech work that needs to be done to be able to bring forward a final price so that then we can enter into a comprehensive agreement.
Okay, so it'll bring forward a price, and then we determine, is that something we're feel comfortable with, not funding?
Yeah, ultimately, the project goes forward when a comprehensive agreement is reached. We felt as though it was important to move forward with this interim now as opposed to straight to comprehensive, because they still have work they want to do. To be able to give us an official alignment of what is being proposed. And so I think it has to happen in the sequence. But we did exchange our comments back to them last week. And I think I have that right, that we're scheduled to meet with them on Monday of next week.
So we think an interim comprehensive will come to us when?
That's hard to answer because a lot of what will define the comprehensive, they're going to learn after we approve the interim. So
No, I said the interim, though.
So the interim has to happen, and then they go out and do some work.
Right, but I'm saying, when's the interim coming?
It's going to depend on the back and forth that we have with the attorneys. So
like a month?
Could be sooner. I don't know. It depends on.
If they agree to the red lines we sent back to them, then it could come forward as quick as the next couple meetings.
Great. So interim, then they're going to go do work. Then there would be a final comprehensive operating agreement that come back probably many months from now.
Yeah, the comprehensive agreement is going to take a little bit longer.
Time.
Yeah, because there's going to be a lot of factors and things that we're going to have to work through. So that's going to be a longer process, which is why, as the city manager said, we went with the option of an interim agreement.
Makes sense.
Started on the geotechnical and the design and things of that sort.
And is there going to be a cost to the city for the interim?
Potentially, and that's the purpose of the interim, is that it does cost some money to do this evaluation. And the way the interim is written is that if they expend this money to do this evaluation, and if the project all of a sudden stalls or is canceled for no fault of their own, then we would agree to fund a certain amount of that study work, up to certain not to exceed caps. But that gives them the comfort that they'd be willing to go out and do that work, and that as long as they continue to do that work and the project continues to move forward, or if they were to at some point say, never mind, we don't want to propose anymore, those would not be sunk costs to the city. But if all of a sudden we just move forward and they start to do this work and expend this money, and then we walk away, and it's not because of anything they did, there will be certain recoverables that they would be entitled to if you all approve the interim agreement.
Okay, fair enough. That sounds good. Last question, Chris, is about the federal courthouse. I just want to kind of get a quick update, permitting and relocation of lines and so forth.
So that one I don't have off the top of my head. I saw
Whoever.
some renderings last week and saw the what the building's going to look like.
Right.
Do we have anybody on our team that could do a federal building
Ben
update?
could do it.
Ben Rogers.
And while he's walking up here, can we also have an update on the police station?
I can give you one, sure.
And Chris, just got a text from 17th Street Bridge, stuck in the up position. Any help? So I don't know if there's anything we can do to.
As soon as Ben sits down, he will help with that as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben.
Sit down, Ben.
Ben, please take care of that before it goes into District 2, okay?
Right, exactly.
You can handle that, all right?
Once it's in District
Thank
2,
you.
there will
I
never
really
be a problem with that
appreciate it.
bridge.
Thank
Breaking
you.
the sunshine law.
Thank you. I'm
Share
sorry.
the same bridge.
Thank you very much.
Sure. We'll get it
Whatever
all
you can
fixed
do.
for you.
Thank you.
You get one side of the bridge, he gets the other.
Right, exactly.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ben Rogers, Transportation Mobility. So Commissioner Sorensen on
Yeah.
the federal courthouse. I spoke with the project manager just a few hours ago.
Oh, great.
They're moving forward with everything. Everything's on schedule. Got a little behind before, but they're catching up at this point. They just released the design build criteria package for looking for a consultant or a contractor to put the design to build together.
Okay, great. And we're on track to relocate some of those lines and so forth. How's
Yeah,
that
there were some
going?
utility easements that they
Right.
had to redesign the site on. They're
Yep.
working with AT&T on that. One of the challenging factors was that that's right where it crosses the river, so it
Right.
wasn't as easy as abandoning in our other portions. On the city side, we've got a lot of things that we're waiting on them to give us the green light to move forward on. We've got an exchange agreement that will come to the commission probably sometime in July.
Yep.
That would allow us to start doing our utility relocations, our pump station relocation, and talk about the city building a parking garage.
Okay, great. Yeah, and the parking garage is still part of the calculation, and you're feeling good about revenue numbers for that?
Everything is just on hold at this point until the GSA, it's got to actually go all the way through Congress and then come back down with approval for an exchange agreement.
Okay.
So once we get that exchange agreement executed, then we can start moving forward on the city aspects.
Okay. All right, cool. Thank you. That's great. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Mayor. That's it.
Thank you. Quick update on the police building. That's continuing to move forward. We met with Moss and AECom and our whole police team probably about 2 weeks ago now. Unfortunately, construction, whether it's the police building, the fire station at 13, any other project you might consider right now in the construction world, we're seeing costs exceeding what they were initially intended to be when the projects were quoted in the first place. So we looked at the police building, looked at fire station 13 as well. You didn't ask about that, but I'll tell you it's also part of the discussion as to how we can bring those projects into budget and what's the right time to buy the project. We are still on our timeline of a fall groundbreaking for the police building, so nothing has fallen off of that timeline. We will be to a point of permitting and needing to make some critical decisions on the tower that is on the site and where it eventually either moves to or if it stays where it is and we build a structure next to it so that the brains of the radio system can stay there next to the tower on the site.
Now, Chris, weren't we looking at one point at putting that on top of a existing building?
Yeah, so we are doing that study.
Okay.
And there are 3 buildings that initially popped out as options.
Right.
If the joint government complex had been moving forward faster than it seems to be, that would have been a potential option as well. It deals with line of sight and availability. And so I think of the 3 that were initially identified, 2 had opportunities for the relocation of the equipment to the building itself. 1 did not.
Yeah.
And so I can't tell you if that study's come to a completion. I could look to the right folks here to answer that, but that was a decision-making point, and we did move forward with doing the study to try to locate a building downtown. That's the best decision.
Yeah, it'd be far better than anywhere else. So, okay. All right.
Certainly far better than a tower in the sky.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thanks,
Yep.
Mayor.
Okay, great. Just a couple things. The highlight of my past couple of weeks was doing a public service announcement with Dan Marino regarding Autism Awareness Month. I'm almost 6 feet. He's 10 feet tall. I look like a midget, but it was cool. And everyone should be aware of Autism Awareness Month, this being that month. And we're lighting up the city blue in recognition of autism. April 7th, which I guess is a couple of days, I'll be joining Vice Mayor Heather Moritas at the Borough League of Cities lunch at the Tower Club. Everyone's invited to come. And that evening,
Great.
and that evening, the Mercedes-Benz corporate run at 6:30 p.m. I'll be doing the initial remarks. And this Saturday morning, the Mayor's Chess Challenge. I hope there's checkers too, but I'll be participating in that. And then Also that morning is the Spring Fling at the Imperial Point, Dottie Mancini Park, so I'll probably be a little late for that after I get whooped by some 9-year-old who can beat me in chess. There are a couple things which I think we'll just discuss at a later time. And I will prepare a report with regard to the trip to Dubai that we took. Just hasn't been enough time to really pull it all together, but I'll have it for us by our next meeting. And that's it. So, anything further? Do you have any city manager reports?
Not at this time. I might have some
Okay.
tonight, but not at this time.
City attorney, do you have any reports? Okay, so conference meeting is now concluded, and I'd like to be able to do the CRA meeting if we could. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay. I'd like to begin. Oh, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. So please call the roll.
Vice Chair Moritas?
Here.
Commissioner Glassman?
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Here.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Here.
Chair Trentalis?
You mean chair?
Chair.
Chair.
Did I say,
You said commissioners. They're board members, right? So I think you mean to say.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm here. So, Chair Trentalis. He called you a commissioner. You're supposed to be a board member.
Board member?
Yeah, it's okay.
What are we?
All right, I
Who
know.
are we?
It's all good.
Board member.
Oh, you're what?
So BR1, review of the Community Redevelopment Agency annual report for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2021. Anyone have any questions? Is Michael Lucente here? He keeps signing, keep seeing his name everywhere, but he never shows up.
What is it?
Michael Lucente, lives in Southwest 12th Court. Is that still District 4?
For a little while.
Okay. Is there anything to vote on here? It's just a review. Alan, is there anything?
It's
to
correct.
vote
It's
on?
just a report.
Okay.
All good.
Moving on to M1, this is motion approving minutes for the March 15th, 2022 CRA board meeting. If no questions, someone like to move?
Moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Chair Moritas?
Yes.
Board Member Glassman?
Yes.
Board Member McKenzie?
Commissioner, board member.
I know, what am I?
Board Member Sorensen?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis?
Yes, so those minutes are approved. M2, motion approving a subordination of the CRA mortgages from BH3DJ Flagler LLC to a new mortgage in favor of Benesco USA. Amendments to the facade program participation agreement with the BH3DJ Flagler LLC. Amendments to the property and business improvement program agreement with BH3DJ Flagler LLC. And amendments to the restrictive covenants authorizing the executive director to execute any and all related instruments and delegating authority to the executive director to take certain actions.
Move the item.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? There being none, please call the roll.
Vice Chair Moritas?
Yes.
Board Member Glassman?
Yes.
Board Member McKenzie?
Yes.
Board Member Sorensen?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis?
Yes, and M2 is approved. No one signed up to speak. M3, motion approving $330,000 for Finally Friday on Sistrunk series. Any questions?
I do, Mayor. Thank you. Chris or whomever would like to take this, I did notice that the CRA had already approved $150,000 for 5 events. So that's $30,000 per event. And we're asking to add a 6th event for $30,000, which I understand. But for next fiscal year, we're being asked now to approve $300,000 for 5 events. So it's doubling from $30,000 an event to $60,000 an event. And I don't quite understand.
So I think it has to do with the price of talent and the fact that Parks is not participating in the, but go ahead, Clarence, and give a full response, please.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners, Mayor. The manager is correct. The series that we were holding, where we only had 30,000 event, Parks Department was helping us out. They were funding the stage and some other ancillary costs. We are now going to fund the whole of the event, as well as we're providing some additional funding for headliners, where we only had about $5,000 for headliners before. now this will allow us to be able to get headliners upwards of maybe $10,000, $15,000.
Okay, seems like a big increase to me. I don't know, it's double, we were paying 30,000 an event, 60,000. I'm just, okay, I mean, I don't know.
So
who the
let me interject on this item. So
Why can't we?
what's your time sensitivity on this based upon new information I just got from our Office of Management and Budget? Do you have to, could this be fine if it came forward at the next CRA agenda? And you
Yes.
still meet your deadline?
Yes.
Well, it looks like we can do the one for 30,000. There's one that they're asking for the 30, because this is a total of 330, but if you want to keep it.
I think I'd ask you just to defer to the CRA meeting of May.
Yeah, but I would still give them the 6 because they got to plan that in conjunction with all day with the grand opening of the YMCA. So they have been coordinated.
Is that all part of that?
Yeah, so I would just, like Steve is saying, do the 30, and then if you got to pull the other piece back, so they can
So
plan.
if you want to do that, that's fine. I just need to look at the interplay between CRA funds and general funds at this point and what is allowed as funding. So I don't know enough to take a definitive position right now. So if you want to move forward with approving the 30, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But let's defer everything that is related to next year.
I could do that because the other 300,000 is for fiscal year 2023, which
Perfect.
doesn't
Right.
start until.
So then let's move the item
October.
let's move the item for 22, and I'll bring back 23.
And why, if Parks and Rec was helping with some of those things like stage or talent or whatever, why would it be double if CRA was doing it and not Parks? I don't quite understand why the double cost.
I don't have that answer for you.
I mean, double the cost is the stage was costing around $12,000. $12,000. The talent, as I stated, what we've been doing and Parks has been helping us has been spending around 12 to 15, maybe even $18,000 for talent. So there alone, you're talking about an additional $30,000.
Okay, anyway, it just sort of just popped out at me when I realized that was quite a big increase. So that's okay, whatever you want to figure out, Chris, but I do think we should move forward just so that 6th event can happen at 30,000, and then we'll worry about October a little bit later, I guess.
I'll second if that's a motion.
Yes.
Okay. Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
So that's approved as amended, correct?
Yeah, for just how much?
For the
30.
30,000.
For fiscal year 2022, not to include fiscal year 2023.
So the amount is what amount?
30.
30.
Yeah.
Per event.
No, just one more event.
One event.
Just,
one more.
Just
To
the
add
one
a
time.
6th event.
So it's just $30,000 for
Add
one
a
event.
6th
For the one
event.
event.
To finish out 2022.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Vice Chair Moritas?
Yes.
Board Member Glassman?
Yes.
Board Member McKenzie?
Yes.
Board Member Sorensen?
Yes.
Chair Trentalis?
Yes. And that motion's approved. Is there any further business of the CRA?
No.
There being none, meeting adjourned. Thank you.